All right, folks. Welcome to what is likely going to be one of the more depressing HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDERs I am ever going to host. We're not talking about tech tonight. We are talking about recent events. Be honest, given that given what's been happening, I just didn't feel right talking about it. A little later tonight, DEF CON 201 co-founders Side Pocket and GI Jack are going to join me on call, and we're just going to talk about this. I mean, since about noon today, I've been hearing sirens near constantly outside my window here in Jersey. I've been, you look at the doom scrolling on Twitter and you see what's going on in the Capitol, and, I'm a buff of history. I actually play a lot of war games. EMCister, I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. The time to invoke the 25th Amendment was quite a long time ago. I will get more into that, but I want to give the historical context of where we are. My dad was a very avid war gamer. I learned a lot of history playing war games. I even have a few here to reenact quite a few of the great, of the grand scope of it. I play Paradox games, which probably is the most advanced topic on it. So, what I really am thinking about when I saw the charge, I'm from New York City, for those who don't know. I was born and raised here. On September 11th, I was at boarding school, and they told us that a plane had impacted the Twin Towers. They hadn't known at that time what had happened, but I was in Miss Solomon's science class when the announcement was made. They hid the staff of the school decided to take the internet down and hid the information about the second impact. But me being me, I got around their firewall and was able to find out the truth. Got me in a fair bit of trouble, but I've been told that when people see something like this, you will remember exactly where you are for the rest of your life. It's like people who saw Challenger explode. Almost all of them can remember exactly what they were doing that day. So when I look, so when I see this, I know that I was standing here at my desk in Jersey City in my apartment when a group of domestic terrorists, because frankly, that's probably the most accurate term I can use, charged into the United States Capitol and tried to seize control of Congress. I mean, that is about as simply put as I can. I gotta be honest. Right now, I am legitimately Section 231. I'll get to that in a moment. But with Section 231, which obviously is relevant to this because it's how social media platforms get involved, there is a lot. The United States has not been in a true a declared state of unrest since the Civil War, and it hasn't been under wartime restrictions since World War II. There are a lot of known exceptions to the First Amendment under wartime. I can go through all the Supreme Court cases about that, but I could easily see that the 230 getting suspended if we end up under a state of unrest. The U.S. Constitution actually, I need the actual text of the Constitution, has clauses relating to this. Right. Yeah. There's specifically where it talks about cases of public rebellion or invasion of public safety. Lincoln emancipated slaves in the United States under the basis that habeas corpus and similar were not needed. And the only reason, and a lot of why the 13th Amendment was passed to end slavery in the United States was his wartime proclamations would not stand in peacetime. That's kind of what he went down to. And I mean, so to back up track a little bit, for those who are less versed in U.S. constitutional law, the 25th Amendment revamped how a president succession can happen. Originally under the Constitution, basically it... okay, Senate is returning to the election. That is news. Under the 25th Amendment, this was under Reagan. They decided to formalize and pass an amendment on how presidential succession happens. So under normal circumstances, the president is automatically removed from, in case he dies, the vice president becomes president, yada, yada, yada. There is a clause in the 25th Amendment that if the president is incapacitated, and this is decided by the vice president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, they can remove a president, and the vice president takes over as acting president. So the thing is that, Game Master, like I said, I am not a lawyer. Don't take anything I'm saying here as legal advice. 230 right now is still the text of the United States. It has not been repealed. It has not been struck down by the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court was to strike down 230, it has to be on the grounds of what's known as constitutional review. The law would have to be repassed by Congress, or an amendment would have to be to reinstate the original thing. So that's sort of why Roe versus Wade keeps getting challenged, because the original Roe versus Wade case was decided that the right of abortion is protected by the Constitution and that it's codified to the states. So unless SCOTUS overturns its own ruling, because SCOTUS is not bound by its past president, or a constitutional amendment is passed that overrides SCOTUS, something like Roe versus Wade can't be passed. Now, Section 230 is pretty heavily based in First Amendment law, and while I have a lot of problems with the United States, the First Amendment protections we have actually are fairly strong as compared to several other countries. I mean, we've been watching the United States slide into what can best be described as hell, but the media is still functioning. So, I mean, that's what it really boils down to. So, Biden can't repeal 203. In fact, the president actually has very little power over 230, despite what Trump says. Let me give a little context here. So, what we're talking about is, what is it? It's the Communication Acts 230, or it's Section 230. I'll drop the link in Wikipedia. The very short part is that Section 230 is part of the laws that govern the FCC. It essentially provides immunity for website publishers posting third-party content. For example, Twitch cannot be held liable for what's being held on my stream because it's protected under Section 230. That's the same reason why Twitter and such also cannot be directly held responsible for Donald Trump's tweets. There are exceptions to 230, specifically stuff like the imminent violence and cases where the publisher should have known in advance. It's not ironclad, but in general, 230 is what makes the internet go. To repeal 230, it would take an act of Congress, so you need a majority in both houses plus the president's sign-off, or a supermajority in both houses to overrule a veto. Biden has not made a comment about 230 either way, to my knowledge. So I don't think he's going to... I don't like Biden. I'm going to be very honest about this. But he's not made any comments that he's planning to strike down 230. Yes, you make a very good point, Mr. Pocket, that CISTA and FOSTA, because they feed COPA and self-censorship. And, some of these laws are written under good intent. The COPA law, I have problems with COPA, please don't get me wrong, but the intent of COPA was not in a bad place. But then it grew into legislation that specifically discriminates against sex workers and other minorities. And then we currently see that the United States Capitol is under siege when, and law enforcement is doing jack shit. I actually think there was a tweet that the DoD has had delayed deployment because they had not received orders to do so. That's understandable because the DoD essentially acts on the discretion of the president and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I don't think anyone was expecting armed rebellion today. I mean, we knew it was coming, but... So, give me a moment. I need to drink. So there is a lot of debate on how much leeway the Joint Chiefs of Staff have if the president gives them a direct order. By a strict reading of the side pocket, I'm not even going to acknowledge that. By a strict reading of the U.S. Constitution, the U.S. president is entirely unchallenged over his control of the U.S. military. And to be frank, that's never really been a problem. Because while I have problems with previous presidents, as far as I can tell, Trump is the first one who's intentionally trying to burn the country down on his way out of office. Hard penciling, to be honest, I am not that worried about that, because the fact of the matter is the stuff that ends up under a classification veil is typically, I'm not talking about stuff like, key score. I'm talking about the stuff that actually needs classification. It can put people at risk, but as far as domestic interests, it's going to be less damaging than not. And I honestly will be surprised if anything big comes out of Proud Boys and shit ransacking Nancy Pelosi's office. I know they'll never get all of them. I'm not even sure if there's been any arrests as of yet, but I mean, what was it? There was a reporter for the Daily Blaze, Nancy Pelosi office break-in. What was it? It was a reporter for the Daily Blaze who basically broke into her office and posted a selfie. Let me see if I can find it. It's not there. It is. Yeah, they've identified him. He's actually a reporter for one of the far right tabloids is the word I'm going with right here. But Serene Master, I disagree with this because, despite how the press tried to put it, for the most part, Black Lives Matter's protests were peaceful. And I lived in Manhattan at the time, and Manhattan was one of the larger flashpoints of it. So the BLM protests were basically law enforcement supporting this type of bullshit, especially against those of black and color, minorities, to put it very bluntly. I mean, I'm a white male. I'm in a position of privilege just by that. When I look at DC MAGA, I'm looking at people that basically stand for everything again, who want a dictator in power. I mean, these are the people that would, take the suicide pills for Hitler in his bunker, which is what actually happened at the end of World War II. I don't think I'm even being facetious about this. I've actually had the thought, it's like, I'm going to get on the stream and God knows someone's going to throw a brick through my fucking window. I apologize that I am swearing tonight. I normally try and keep it clean on stream, but this has bothered me on a fundamental level that I haven't felt since the World Trade Center came down. And I saw that. I didn't finish the story, but my father decided to come up to Connecticut because I was at boarding school at the time. He drove me into the Bronx. And we were on top of his workplace, standing on top of it, and you could see the Manhattan skyline from there. And I remember very clearly just seeing a haze of smoke coming up from Lower Manhattan. Serene Master, I'm going to drop a link to a Reddit sub called HACK-ALT Headquarters. They're essentially designed to debunk and study the QAnon phenomenon. So it helps a lot with understanding the mindset that's going into this, because I actually have kept fairly close tabs on QAnon. I am, unfortunately, I hate to say this, is a fair number of my extended family falls into the far right crowd. So I generally get some hints of it through the Facebook cray cray. So I mostly am keeping an idea of what's going on, and I highly recommend checking out this subreddit because it really does explain a lot. The other one I highly recommend, I'm going to warn you that this is all trigger warnings. I actually, Side Pocket, if you can set it, you should probably make this stream 18 plus, because frankly, I'm easily going to go into that territory even before I get you on call. They have a sister sub. What is it? Is it like QAnon Anonymous? Is it something like that? It basically talks about, it's posts from family members who support group. Let's see if I can find it. QAnon testing. I want to find it. The thing, it's the same sort of group that tends to accept a lot of conspiracy theorists, but they've been radicalized by 4 years of basically Trump fueling the fires. And the fact of the matter is that Biden is such a weak candidate that I don't think he has any chance of putting out this. The only reason I'm happy to see him in office is I at least think we'll get a semi-competent pandemic response. But I have no hope that he's going to do anything beyond that, because a competent pandemic response is having a functional brain. That's all you really need. An excellent one requires more, but we're not even there in the United States. So I actually want to break this down because I actually think a lot of people should know this. And I digging into QAnon and the alt-right conspiracy is pretty crazy. A lot of this goes back to the birther movement, where people used to try and claim that Obama was not a native-born citizen. This led to the Pizzagate scandal, and quite a bit more. I'm going to drop Wikipedia links. I am very much sugarcoating this, and because if I go into details about what this group believes, it's pushing it. And I see how people get trapped in it, because a lot of people, a lot of major conservatives voiced legitimate doubt that Obama was a native-born citizen. I remember the first time I heard it, it's like, wait, what? And there are those who feel that they covered it up. And then some people took it and ran with it further and further. That led to the Pizzagate scandal, where there was a conspiracy theory of that this Comet Pizza basically was forming a child sex ring. I am not making this up. Really, I am not. I am so legitimately not making this up. And, it's actually... I've studied a lot of World War II. I have actually read Hitler's autobiography, Mein Kampf, as an English translation. Please pardon my German. And it's the same sort of twisted thinking. Like, they make a few interesting details and then form a narrative that goes completely off to left field. Hitler was a really bad writer, but the same strands that he used to blame everything on the Jews is very similar to how QAnon got. In this case, QAnon and the related larger alt-right cloud. The thing, Serene Master, it's a little bit more complex than the dishonesty of the left, because effectively the United States does not have a left wing. what we have a few left Congress critters like AOC, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and a few others. But effectively, if you were to take all members of the Congress, the Democratic Party, it would be considered centralist to centralist right, and the Republican Party would be considered hard authoritarian by the standards used everywhere else in the world. Yeah, that's pretty much what I mean by this. So you have essentially a very large echo chamber between the two parties, and so you have a group of people that feel dissatisfied by both feelings. So you get the vulnerable and outcast. There is a lot of very good writing, like people who get involved with Scientology, how their autobiographies, how they got involved with this, and then how they went. So QAnon's a little bit different than the traditional cult because, well, that's essentially what happened. I'm not going to disagree with you, Game Master. So, Satan My Ninjas, I'm 32. I remember, like I said, I saw the towers come down. I didn't see the towers collapse, but I saw the immediate aftermath. And, you know, we are losing more than a 9/11 per day to a failed pandemic response. We had a suicide bombing in Nashville that, let's be honest, barely made the news. My mom didn't even know about it until I mentioned it because I only saw it on Twitter, and she mostly listens to FM radio news stations because, well, that's how my mom is set in her ways, you know, and they barely brought it up. So, you know, we've become desensitized to this. You know, when when Gerald Ford was pardoned by Nixon, on some level, the American people was willing to accept the corruption at the highest levels. There were no major riots that Nixon was pardoned. And Gerald Ford did say, you know, made it very clear that he felt that by accepting the pardon, Nixon was admitting all guilt. Biden has said that very specifically, that he has no desire to prosecute Trump. He actually said that a few days ago. I don't know if that's true now, but I mean, you have an entire group of people that see atrocities essentially not being acted upon, and I don't know what folks, if you think I'm overplaying my language, please let me know, but I don't think I am. But we see atrocities playing out, and we've become desensitized to it. I mean, let's put it really as a show of hands. How many people were truly surprised that something like the ICE internment camps happened here, considering everything else that's happened in the last 20 years? You know, there is a point where people just become too outraged, you know, become outraged from fatigue outrage. You know, I mean, it's like you go on Slashdot, make a comment. So I actually do want to go back to QAnon. So the basis of QAnon is that they claim to be a group that fights pornography and subversion within the United States government. I like I said, I am very, very trying to keep this as sane as possible. If you look at the exact Wikipedia page, which I'm just going to highlight, I'm not even going to read it out loud. It goes a little bit crazy, but basically the QAnon belief is built around a single figure called Q, who posted to 4chan and is currently on 8chan, who essentially invokes various conspiracy theorists that the Trump administration is currently working to root out corruption and such, that the QAnon movement is working to end child trafficking rings and so forth and so on. So, you know, on its surface, those are things that most people are, you know, regardless of political affiliation, are strongly against. That is, you know, an end to corruption and an end to pedophilia. But then you know, the truth gets distorted very fast, you know, as it does of all conspiracy theorists. It's pretty easy to debunk about 90% of QAnon with a single Google search. and maybe 5 minutes to debunk the rest. I mean, but humans like seeing patterns. Like, so here, it basically, he makes various predictions. The idea of the storm is coming is directly out of QAnon beliefs, and it's the direct descendant of various post-apocalyptic beliefs that go back decades, if not more. And it's just like any other prophet or cult, except the alt-right kind of latched onto Q, and then Donald Trump, probably because it strokes his ego, since he's a central figure of, he's the good guy of the QAnon story. It basically stokes it up to the point that there are admitted QAnon believers in the U.S. Congress right now. Game Master, I don't disagree with that. For various reasons, I personally do not have the ability to fight all that much. I am willing to educate. I am willing to teach. I was in a position to help write tools to fight censorship. I'm actually wearing a Circle of Hope shirt, and my talk at Hope 2018 was helping build the Global Leaks information platform, which is a platform for whistleblowing. My personal life has not let me really continue down this. But as long as you keep striding towards the beliefs of fighting totalitarianism and authoritarianism, and for just basic human decency, for if nothing else, for all, you're doing the right thing. Because to take something like what has happened in U.S. Congress, you basically have to look at the Senate, and you're basically saying that the U.S. vote is a lie. And while I am fully aware that there are irregularities with certain districts, the votes that were tallied were for Democrats. I fully believe that the Republicans tried to fix the vote in their favor, and the numbers were still so far skewed in favor of Republicans that in Democrats, that it didn't matter, because we have Texas that had a single drop box per county, and let's be honest, Texas is a very big state, and the constant scandals that Republicans refuse to want to go for voter reform because it'll make it harder for them to win. Side pocket, I mean, you say it basically, yeah, is I don't want to say it out loud just because Twitch tends to get iffy if I make any sort of implication along those lines, and God knows we don't need to be banned off yet another social media platform, but you have to basically sit and align yourself. You have to look here at CNN, and you have to see that these sorts of things are crazy. Oh, wow. Twitter actually locked his... sorry, I know chat said this, but apparently we've now officially reached the point... I need to read this article. I'm sorry. I am actually reading CNN on a stream. So he's locked me for 12 hours, and he's been warned that he may be suspended. Reflects violation of Twitter's rules. Oh, man. Folks, is the hypocrisy sound fascinating, interesting? Because God knows what Donald Trump has posted on Twitter for years, I do mean years, would have gotten anyone else banned. Because... I don't know. It's... I mean, this is what it took to get someone to listen. And the fact of the matter is that riots are, there's a lot of emphasis, especially when I was growing up, that nonviolent protest is the correct way to protest. But the fact of the matter is that historically, riots and the similar is what gets people to do things. Not always good things, but it's what they cause change. I mean, we see, a lot of people are, even if they are Rhino, Republican in name only. They're disturbed about what they're seeing. The public is urging him to join Parlar. I am I not surprised? What's funny is that if Section 230 goes down the tubes, Parlar would probably be the first casualty, the first up against that particular wall. But we've already seen that, you know... Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing, Jack. There was a period... You know, if you really want a culture that used to, you know... There, you know, actually, I'm going to bring this up. This is probably going to resonate with a lot of people, but what is essentially considered the starting point, you know, this is the wrong riot. I have to be a little bit more specific. But what started the modern LGBTQ plus movement in the United States was a riot, and it was a particularly large one here in New York, in the New York City area, called the Stonewall riots. What had essentially happened, and Side Pocket could almost certainly talk about this way more than I can, but essentially what had happened was that in New York City, and this was in the late 60s, non-heterosexual, let's just say it was highly stigmatized, highly prosecuted, and basically underground. And the NYPD used to regularly shake down bars that, you know, gay bars and the like. And at one point, they basically went one bit too far, and they raided the Stonewall Inn. And this triggered one of the largest riots in New York City. And they burned a good chunk of Lower Manhattan when this happened. So the problem is that SCOTUS has ruled that corporate money is free speech and cannot be blocked. So... The flip side, though, Side Pocket, is we've been desensitized to it, because now we see it day in, day out. You know, when the United States, when the United States tried to censor the New York Times over the publication of the Paragon Papers, it caused a lot of public outrage, because people did not expect and did not see the U.S. government trying to censor speech. I mean, there were plenty of times before that where the U.S. government had applied for prior restraint. But the Pentagon Papers case was the first time it put it in a public thing. But then, you know what? I'm going to read something. You just remind me of something. When I mentioned Challenger earlier, and I want to specifically talk about why Challenger exploded. For context, Challenger was one of the 5 U.S. space shuttles. A design flaw in the O-rings caused a catastrophic explosion that incinerated the shuttle 73 seconds after liftoff. And the chain of events that led up to the Challenger explosion, it was one of the most thoroughly documented disasters in the United States history. And it was investigated by what was known as the Rogers Commission. And very specifically, one of the members of called Richard Freeman, I highly recommend you read his autobiography. He basically went very deep into looking on how the safety factors of the failed O-rings came to be. The problem with the Challenger O-rings is that they were considered what's called a criticality 1 part. If they failed, the space shuttle would be lost, and there was no backup or redundancy. And they were part of the solid rocket booster, so they could not fail. There had been, during the earlier space shuttle missions, there had been known abnormalities of the O-rings not working the way they were supposed to. These deviations were noted and then became normalized within NASA's chain of command, to the point that the contractor for the O-ring, for the Challenger O-rings, who are they? I haven't read this in quite a while. The contractor basically rewrote the specification, saying that extrusion, which is where the O-ring contracts and expands, was perfectly acceptable, even though the part was never designed to work that way. So what was supposed to be unusual became more and more normal. Then on the day of the Challenger explosion, Florida had an unusually cold period. There's let me see if I can show the picture of it. Basically, it got so cold that that Challenger iced over, and there were icicles on the launch tower on the day of launch, and that was below the safety guidelines to launch the space shuttle. NASA took the deviation, had already been overriding its own concerns about the O-rings and decided to launch anyway. At that point, Challenger was dead, and it boom. I highly recommend reading. You don't need to read the whole Rogers Commission, but there is this appendix in it, Appendix F, if I remember correctly. That here I will drop the link. That basically explains how you come to this deviation of normality, because any outsider who had looked at the design of the O-rings would have probably screamed bloody murder and said that the space shuttle was going to explode. And it did. And actually, history repeated itself, because the chain of events that led to Columbia breaking up on re-entry disturbingly mirrors the chain of events that led to the Challenger explosion. So, okay. So, this is how we've gone from QAnon to Challenger. Side Pocket, Jack, do you want to get on Discord? I can keep going on my own, but I would love to hear some varying viewpoints, because, to be honest, I've been on an emotional roller coaster all day. I'm going to wait for them to respond. Because, I completely understand the factors that created QAnon. I completely understand the factors that created, that led to this event. I am still in shock that I am witnessing it. But a lot of people like myself have been saying that this was going to happen unless something major averted course. You have a president that's stoking the tensions to a ridiculous degree. The far-right beliefs have been normalized and even embraced by, what was originally very fringe, very X-Files-esque viewpoints have become normalized by a large majority of the country. You know how YouTube sometimes... I'm going to pull up YouTube for this. You know how YouTube sometimes gives you some weird... very weird suggestions. One of these days, it gave me this video, and this stuck out in my brain so much. I will drop the link about this. Actually, this is not the one. This may be the one I'm thinking about. Let me see here. It basically talks about. Yeah, this is the one I'm thinking of. People that build survival bunkers in their backyard, and a very large community behind it. And this particular bunker, if I remember the video correctly, I'm going to let it play in the background, was owned by a relatively elderly gentleman in one of the southern states. The video author had left the details out. And he had the bunker built because he felt that a Obama presidency was the end of the world, and that he would have to survive in a bunker. I like seeing engineering failures because I learn. But the takeaway from this is that the person that built this bunker spent $60,000. I mean, that is not what I call chump change, to build an underground bunker that was a poor underground bunker, because this entire video basically deconstructs it. But the person that made this video owns a competing bunker building company that certifies bunkers for private use, for nuclear, chemical, and more. Jack could go into more details because he actually understands that. I will actually drop. I did drop the link to this. It's a surprisingly. Oh God, I just noticed that the person who does this video has a MAGA hat. I don't think I noticed that the first time I watched it, but I really do recommend watching this video because it gives you a very interesting mindset into the people that feel. Jack is on Discord. Ring him up. Jack, why aren't you ringing me? Oh, okay. You just went online. Apparently, it's being stupid. Jack, you're being wrong.
All right, howdy.
Hi. Folks, you all know him. You all love him. This is the unexpected crossover between HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDER and Archvile. So, are we going to have a Mr. Pocket join us, or are you just you for now?
Jack's audio is very low.
I can't hear you. Hold on.
That's up to Mr. Pocket.
Jack, say something, because I can't actually hear you. Jack's audio is very low. Oh, hold on. I know what's going on. Linux and Pulse Audio. That is what I'm going to go with here. Let's see here. Desktop audio. Let's turn. Jack, let's see if the fine people on Twitch can hear you. Emily, we're not hacking tonight. We're talking about the current state of the United States. I honestly did not feel right. I did not feel right doing a stream tonight. Side Pocket asked me if I wanted to cover this instead, and I said yes. But given current events, I really could not bring myself to do a tech stream tonight. Jack, I am still not hearing you. Are you saying anything? Okay. Folks, I don't know what happened to Jack. He's connected. He's on audio 4. Okay, so apparently we are doing a tech stream tonight because we're doing the age-old game of here we go. Here's the problem. Why is Jack have a mute icon next to him? I don't want him muted. Or maybe he's deafened me? I don't understand. Jack, why can't I hear you?
Mike,
wait.
Second.
Oh, okay. All right, so the problem's on Jack's end. So
There we go.
Jack muted story of my life. Jack, that was a self-inflicted mute. I did nothing to do that. So okay. Well,
Okay. So I can hear you. You can hear me.
I can hear you. You can hear me. There might be a little bit of echo because I didn't have time to futz with Pulse.
Okay, so where were we?
We were talking about MAGA bunkers.
There's a delay because I can't hear you through Discord.
Can you not hear me? Oh, I know. Hold on. God damn it. Let's see here. OBS has probably got exclusive control of my mic, but let me see if I can fix this. Yeah, okay. We're dealing with some latency issues. Now. Okay.
All right, this is definitely
Where
not
is?
working.
Okay, so you are from the microphone. Input device is good. Discord audio. Jack should be able to hear me in Discord. But oh wait. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm in push to talk mode. I'm in push to talk mode.
Okay, so now
Okay.
test is what you call it. We're good.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
I had Discord in push to talk mode. That's why it wasn't lighting up.
all right. So where were we? MAGA bunker.
MAGA
Pulse
bunker.
audio. No, I had the same exact problem with Pulse Audio on my stream.
That wasn't a Pulse failure. That was literally that I have Discord set to push to talk because I play Among Us.
Okay. So, MAGA bunker. What about MAGA bunkers?
Well, I mean, it kind of emphasized the entire mindset of this. I mean, this was the video I was talking about, and basically, you know, an elderly gentleman who walks with a cane builds a $60,000 bunker in his backyard that Obama was going to be the end of the United States.
Yes. So they're like a very much like a subset of like a prepper that's kind of like even like unhinged from what you'd actually really need to survive in a situation like this. If you want to hear the history of this, right, the history kind of starts in the Cold War. There's two separate things that go into this. One, we have the atomic shelters in what's it called in the Cold War, where everyone's gonna build these shelters.
Fallout shelters. Yeah.
Yeah, fallout shelters. The communists, the Russians, very specifically, the communists are going to nuke us. We're going to go in these shelters, but we'll survive and we'll persevere. The second thing this comes from is this white supremacist reads his book called William Pierce writes the Turner Diaries. I read maybe like the first 3 or 4 chapters of maybe like a 30-chapter book. And then it describes just this. You describe people that kind of stash guns in the woods in an oil drum. They kind of build like a makeshift bunker, and then they wage this war against the government, kind of like for being too liberal. And it kind of very much goes in like on this kind of like fantasy. I think it kind of almost says more about Pierce than it really does like instructions for resistance. But you can tell by the tone of the book is it's written with a narrative, but it's pretty explicit that you're supposed to put the guns in oil. This is what you do here. We did this here. We did this here. We did this. Very explicit, less on kind of the plot that kind of doesn't make sense, and kind of like the very laughable characters. And it's just which is just kind of like and very much just dropping kind of methods of armed robbery and what's it called, blowing up a federal building, which almost line for line of kind of that actually happened with like Timothy McVeigh, almost reenacted the federal building bombing line for line. So you have kind of two things over here, and kind of this very much kind of survivalist, or this almost like, I mean, even on the fringes of faux survivalists, that not only are the communists coming this time, the liberals are communists, the liberal Democrat communists are coming. So somebody from especially older gentleman from the Cold War era needs to what's it called, getting subconsciously still has a need to go get in his bunker. And even if he probably hasn't read the Turner Diaries, which is, even aside from being white supremacist, is just absolutely terrible and full of like ridiculous plot holes.
I mean, what it actually reminds me of is something like
probably knows it by cultural transmission. People around him take the tropes. Somebody in the conservative circles reads this book, and then the tropes from this book kind of circulate, even if people don't know the original source.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I mean, it sort of reminds me how, like the anarchist cookbook is more likely to cause damage to the reader,
Yes.
to anyone who tries to use it than it does, but the ideas are infectious. I mean, that's the entire concept of a meme.
As somebody who like remembers kind of like the early internet era, I mean, the anarchist cookbook is more of a meme. Is more talked about what it is, and like than kind of actually really what it supports. As most of the recipes either wouldn't work or would harm the user. Is entirely bullshit. The person who wrote it really had no real connection to any real anarchist movements. He was a college kid who just wrote the book and just published it. And then later he just kind of woke up of how stupid it was, like the whole concept was, and he really just did like a lot of research on it, like paper research on it, with no actual testing. And I think it's another story behind this. Is kind of I think it does say something about, again, another hacker topic with that. It's it's about kind of stepping away from like this LARP concept, and you just kind of talking about things you really don't know about. You just kind of just done some paper research and never actually tried any of this out. Or speaking of things you really don't have, like
I mean, one thing that someone what just actually Serene Master in chat just brought this up, and I actually think this is a very good point, that if they were to start looking at alt-right YouTube videos, the algorithm starts giving those more and more. Because I know I've done that, because I've actually I keep an eye out. Like I said, I keep an eye on the QAnon crazy. But I mean, because of the way Facebook, YouTube's algorithms work, you get one hell of a echo chamber.
So yeah, it does. It's like almost like on purpose they're trying to like rabbit hole you. So it's like, yeah, it's basically like they know. I mean, because like I said, because it's Google, it's like, what does Google do? What does Google sell? Google is basically a human recognition engine. It's supposed to recognize human behavior, and then literally just takes that and then manipulate human behavior. Just use it to manipulate you for who basically ever pays them advertisement. or whatever, because really they don't know the hell goes on in Google headquarters. But the whole point is like more a study, psychological study on kind of human behavior, not just like at a larger scale, like overall trends, but to micro target like every last person with this stuff on a scale people previously wouldn't think possible and probably wasn't really possible before it started. It's the whole point of which is kind of one reason why their searches are so good is because it understands context in a way that no previous search engine did. I mean, especially if you remember search engines before Google, like Lycos or Yahoo, that were basically keyword searches.
Alta Vista.
Alta Vista. So it's which I remember. But I remember like especially when we talk about the Anarchist Cookbook, I remember like the early internet, it was all over the place, and
Hold on, before you keep going. So Game
yeah.
Master, the problem is, how do you take away Facebook's power to manipulate us? The very simple answer is that monopolies like Facebook, and I will actually go as far as basically almost every social media, they need to be broken up into much smaller chunks.
Oh, of course. Facebook needs
Because
to go. You need to just do as much as possible. Get off Facebook, to like not just all your friends and family off Facebook, like whatever art, music, and culture you do. Just find an alternate way to participate without Facebook, because it's not just politics. People, this is just a straw boat to camel's back. If you remember punk rock band Black Flag, they literally will steer you into music and subcultures that are more profitable for advertisers.
well,
Like,
but I
it's like Black Flag caught them with their pants down doing this. That they basically were just taking Black Flag's likes because, like I said, you run an underground punk rock band, like the type of punk rock band that just basically fuck consumerism has been doing that since like the early '80s. They just said like, yeah, we're just gonna not count your likes and make you appear less popular than you are.
Well, I mean,
Uh,
I think the
Simple
point I'm
shit
trying to
like
make
that.
here is, let's assume that
Huh,
Facebook goes poof tomorrow. What's
yeah.
what's to stop the next one being worse than Facebook? And because let's be honest, Twitter is very much verging on to becoming Facebook territory.
It is. I mean, it's one of those. It's kind of like Twitter's not good. I mean, of all the like actual like called mainstream social networks, Twitter I think is probably least bad.
Yeah, that's how I
Um,
describe it.
Twitter has like the leg up. That it was actually started by anti-capitalists for literally for a protest in 2008 for DNC protest. It was literally started by anarchists in 2008 to communicate to for communications between themselves at the DNC protests in 2008. That's why Twitter exists. Was written. Again, you could probably say that before Reddit literally got bought out by an advertising company. It was written by Aaron Schwartz, who's also again I said, an anti-capitalist, who shamefully died in a very similar manner to Jeffrey Epstein, but nobody ever, because I guess whatever, nobody really questioned his death, and it's just pretty much accepted as a suicide, which I still do, but there's always that lingering doubt. Uh, um, no, I said Reddit was bought by an advertising group. Twitter is not being bought by Facebook.
Conde. Yeah, there's a flowchart. I'd have to go look for it, but
Yeah,
it's really disturbing how much the main media can basically be tied back to about three corporations.
yeah, it
Because
is, and
CNN,
it's
most of the liberal, and I'm going to put liberal in very big quotes here, is owned by the Turner Corporation. Fox and its ilk are basically outstretches of News Corporation,
uh-huh.
and there's one or two other ones, but you know,
It's like it's like what does Viacom control? Viacom is owned by AOL Time Warner, and then
oh god,
subsidiaries of Viacom or MTV and VH1 and what's it called, Clear Channel,
all right,
and which owns Clear Channel,
but
like almost all broadcast radio. Uh,
but
and
it's because of this that things like QAnon gets traction. Because let's be honest, we do have quite a bit of, shall we say, shadow actors here. But all you
oh,
have to do is
of
point to a
course.
little bit of light evidence and then provide the wrong conclusion, and that's how you get a cult started.
Yeah, what makes my mind though, kind of like, because you think about other topics, like you said, like okay, QAnon. I mean, you go look up socialism on or like left wing topics on like YouTube, you're not gonna you won't have like the same rabbit hole effect as you will with a lot of these right wing conspiracy theories. So there's two possibilities is that cross my mind. Both I say about equal. As one is these right wingers are very good at SEO. which is very much a distinct possibility. They just hit the ground one day and said SEO, whatever shadow actor, perhaps somebody with a lot of money, tech savvy, Russians, Chinese, I don't know. But somebody just hit the ground with SEO, either that or somebody inside Google, either with the knowledge and will of the company or a rogue actor inside of Google is doing this. Yes, is manipulating them from the inside to rabbit hole.
Well, there is a lot of belief that and there's a fair bit of evidence that Q is either the current founder of 8chan or someone closely related to him. So, it adds credence to that.
Sense. It would make sense. I mean, like the thing about Q, what strikes me about Q is just like how ridiculous when it started on like what's it called on 8chan. I mean, if you really want to discredit Q, like seriously, how stupid it is, go Google and some people haven't taken it down. Just go look at an archive of all Q posts, QAnon posts from 8chan, like when he started on 8chan. So just go write the post, and this first post is literally, is this thing on? Okay. So you mean to believe somebody with super secret access to the government, is like a little intelligence agency, is literally going to post a paranoid schizophrenic with insomnia, which is literally a persona he adopts, a paranoid schizophrenic with insomnia. So I've been on the internet long enough, and I've read all the stories. I've read stories from basically people all walks of life, including a lot of doctors who'd actually publish a lot of things that schizophrenic patients would say. So there's a certain very style that people not like a mild case, but like a real deep case of schizophrenia would post. It's like a very kind of way they do things, way they kind of use like alliterations, way they kind of so sometimes play with words. It's almost like a tick that some people with serious, not bad enough that they're completely incoherent, but like people with like serious delusions of moderate cases of schizophrenia would post. And it's the same posting patterns that people, if you think typical crazy, very typical crazy, but it's very kind of specific. And this is the kind of pattern of speech that Q uses. A combination of somebody with this and insomnia, and kind of almost alliterated out into what's called text. If you've ever read a secret government document, I have. Do you know what they actually sound like? For most rest of you don't have any base references, go look up SCP.
Actually, the best one I can recommend is read the original Pentagon Papers. They've been declassified.
Yeah, but even like in the military, when you read like government official documents, military, very same tone of very dry tone of voice, which is very familiar to anybody who's ever anything like this. Very dry, mistake it nowhere. Very dry, very passive voice, third person, like SCP. It's just like if it doesn't really read like an SCP document,
yeah, but that's the whole point, though, is that Side Pocket made the comment in chat. I don't know if you saw it. That what Jack is saying is that people find horrific shit at the core of government. They don't play ARG games. They dock ASAP. But people, there's always a fascination with conspiracy theorists. I don't believe any myself, but I do actually find it quite fascinating to read them. And I remember when Cicada was a big thing. Remember them?
Cicada, yeah, I remember that one. I had a buddy of mine who played me and him were actually trying to start a podcast, but we just keep on getting sidetracked. One of my punk rock buddies actually played that for a while.
No, you're thinking something different. Cicada 3301 was a very strange thing. They basically posted a single puzzle to 4chan, and this led to a very elaborate online game that no one's ever claimed credit for. And it's from an organization that claims to value cryptography, privacy, and anonymity. It's one of those things that we know it exists. We know the puzzles exist. And they at one point, one of the puzzles required going to one of 5 real-world locations. One was in Tennessee, one was in Russia, one was in Australia, and one was in France. I mean, the logistics of posting posters in all 5 locations and putting additional hints in other real-life locations, that's not trivial. And yet they've never been able to figure out who's behind Cicada.
I mean, if it's one of those, if you have a decent hacker group, the few people who are good with math and stuff like this, I mean, it really it's like I said, if somebody's actually smart, You know, I mean, like you have like a few really smart people around the world. I mean, it really wouldn't. I don't think it'd be really as hard as like as far as distributing all those like it sounds. I mean, it's like from like the same type of people who do like a lot of times like this people who are like serious mathematicians. It kind of fits the profile of some of these people who might be a serious mathematician and a little off, which has been known to happen before, and that also doesn't fit the profile of Q. Uh, Not the slightest. Because there's a difference between the type of people who are just abstractly good at math and stuff like this, that for reasons you might suspect, don't pass the loyalty test to ever work for like an organization like the Feds, like as like a case officer or something like that. And you definitely don't work for the FBI, which are going to have kind of like which is going to run them through a psych test is another thing to do. Because like again, another thing that you're certain point, I mean, you're going to have to pass a psych test somewhere. And when you talk about like a background check, I mean, even for secret, when I got secret clearance, I mean, you know, from I mean, the reason I had secret clearance is I had very brief stint as military police. Very brief. I mean, not my choice either. That's a story for another time. It's all the stuff they through the background that they go through. I mean, they were just not even top secret, just secret. Um, they go back and contact your parents, your kindergarten teacher. They literally get to know you
Yeah.
pretty well.
My father has top secret clearance, and
And
so I went.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like I had somebody from an MPI, a military police investigator, just grill me over like my parking tickets, and I had to defend like why you got all these parking tickets, and I'm like, well, this is just what I did this one summer. Is I had a good job doing deliveries. There's no parking, and people wanted their sandwiches, and I couldn't be late, so I had to park illegally. Um, Otherwise, people would get mad, and that was just that one job. And I got a lot of parking tickets, so I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
You know. So, I mean, he didn't seem happy about that, but I got the secret clearance anyway. Uh, uh, but so anyway, it's like for somebody who's like seriously, but like it's like I said, for those parking tickets, I needed a waiver. I literally needed a waiver, a bunch of parking tickets, and a few speeding tickets. So I can imagine if this guy had like a background of being like seriously schizophrenic to this point. I mean, there's no way this would have not come up somewhere in his career. I mean, you don't just like age 18 just be like, "Hi, Mister Sir, I want a job like working in military intelligence." You don't. You know, maybe if you start as a private as an analyst somewhere. I mean, you have to get through like if you wanted a job as an officer, you need like college, or if you want to, I'm pretty sure for like most of like these agencies, you need college, and you have to get through all that on your own, managing like moderate mental illness, which is debilitating. I just how would that work? But it seems to me like because what it seems to me is it's like that style is not kind of purposely that it's kind of learned. Like for example, when people tell like ghost stories, we have the stereotypical crazy person kind of sounds like that,
Well,
so it's
I
kind of
actually
learned
want Jack. I
cultural
want to make a
transmission.
counter example of this.
Uh,
Is the there are people. There's a lot of, shall we say, extremist serial killers, terrorists who've been psychologically analyzed, and aside from their beliefs, they come
yeah,
across as completely normal. I mean,
no,
the,
no. So I agree with you, and like, well, I'm talking about like not like mentally ill in general. I'm talking about a very specific condition. So as far as like if you're somebody who's like a legit path, they're not real unless immediately when you talk to them, they're going to come across as charming and bubbly. They're not going to come across as immediately as crazy. Uh, there's a lot of like conditions like that, but we're talking about the person who has like talks the condition of somebody who has trouble distinguishing what is and is not reality, not kind of like other conditions. Very, very much specifically um, what's been posted in one specific condition, which is kind of the one that fits the stereotype of like a lot of the pop culture trope of the crazy man. Not like actual mental illness, not like actual serial killer. Uh, so I think that was my point.
hold on, just give me a sec. I'm responding to chat. So to answer something from Game Master, does he think the internet will keep going on? And yeah, the internet's going to keep going on. To Game Master has been talking about Section 230. I do kind of want to address this. That if 230 gets actually repealed here, what you'll see in the United States is something very close to what internet is like in mainland China. So I lived in mainland China, granted not for a long period of time, but enough to get the lay of the land, and a lot of the internet basically functions, but you always know that the PRC is watching, and if both companies self-censor because they can be held liable for their users' content, and the users themselves, well, do I really need to spell it out? So it's interesting that we talk about the internet revolution being decentralized, because I actually have revived development on the FTL streaming protocol, because apparently people don't want to leave it dead.
I mean, so like here's the thing is though, it's like if like 230, I mean, like if the internet is outlawed, all we'll just be outlaws. And well, if you want to talk about things that'll probably really kill Facebook, it's going to be if that dies. So the first thing we're doing is probably moving VPNs around. Yes, what's it called? Yes, Game Master, and I'm moving all my stuff, all my digital infrastructure is being moved to Germany. It's just Hetzner has a decent stack, and everything's just going to be moved. I was actually considering doing it though. The Germans have strong privacy laws, which they actually respect, but they ask for a lot of personal information before you just pop a server. Um, so as far as the American internet, that's also going to be really hard. I wonder if we could really just take like all the people who kind of run the internet, and if we could just kind of evacuate them all to Europe or something, um, which again would be hard.
I'm really debating. I can actually weigh in on this, but I'm debating if I actually want to.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact of the matter is that the vast majority of institutions that govern the internet are American and Europe centric. There is a growing presence in Asia, but the it's for, at least in the case of China, which is obviously the largest country both by landmass and population in Asia. Their internet is essentially a bubble in and of itself. So it really doesn't, China doesn't really try and make that much influence beyond, except with a few things related to AsiaNIC, and even in ICANN, their presence is almost non-existent, from what I remember.
The other big issue is it's going to be like there's always Tor, right? Uh, and there's a big reason why the United States government can't get rid of Tor is because the United States government makes Tor. So at one hand, it's what's going to often happen that most people don't realize is you're going to have one branch of the United States government fighting with the other branch of the United States government. It was very famous in the Cold War, especially with the Hoover era FBI, where Hoover just wants is like, we all need all need like clean shaven faces and like with black skinny ties and dark suits, and the CIA is like, whoa, like have you tried some of this like lysergic acid? I mean, not quite that extreme, but the CIA is always a little more loose in kind of like who they deal with. And not necessarily the CIA, but the Department of Navy's people who wrote Tor and do most of the funding. And it's known that like U.S. intelligence agencies are a big user of Tor. So just to get rid of Section 230, I mean, to really seriously like what's it called? Literally block Americans' internet access. They'd have to literally block Americans using Tor, which would more or less kill Tor. And I don't. It's one of those you would literally, as much as that would try to happen, and then you could put all your Section 230 violating content in European servers, and you'd still be able to get it through Tor. Because they're not taking down Tor. That's just not going to happen, at least in the short run. And I think that's like that's like the absolute end of it. But I don't see 230 actually being repealed.
No, the fact of the matter is that I hate to use this argument, but both sides have too much to lose if 230 gets repealed.
Oh yeah,
Trump is playing up on rhetoric, but
pretty much.
Biden has very good reasons for 230 to keep standing. So, you know, if someone did something the right thing for the wrong reasons, fine. So, because like I said, I do not like Biden. The only reason I'm even like yay come next week is that we might actually get a somewhat slightly better response to the pandemic, and that's really about the only thing I have to look forward to. I mean, I want to make sure that we're not going off into conspiracy theorist here.
I mean, a lot of it kind of like is speculation, but like I'd argue, kind of as somebody who's grown up in the internet, somebody who does a lot of computer stuff. I mean, I'd say probably you have an expert opinion too. I mean, you're closer to like IANA and ICANN than like most of us would probably dream to be. So you probably have a more of an inside edge of kind of how that works. You've been to China. You've a lot. I mean,
The official position of ICANN and to a lesser extent the IETF is that the organizations are apolitical and will not create or base policy on national laws. This is why stuff like the .cn domain, basically the bubble of, to use the mainland China as an example, and I don't want to use them as an example, but they're the most well known. Because that their actions are restricted to their own national borders, IANA and ICANN don't do anything. They basically route around it. And so if the United States becomes this gaping black hole in the internet, and I honestly don't think it will get to that, but the flip side is I didn't expect an assault on the U.S. Capitol today.
Yeah. So here's the thing is though. I mean, it's like there's me and Cypok were just talking about this today. It's like it's good to try to be above politics. Or a better one would be not apolitical or neutral in the current like petty conflicts. It's probably a better way of saying it, because like I think the quote that I have, the quote that like I really have from Richard Stallman about politics is hackers or programmers like to think that they can ignore politics, but politics is never going to ignore programmers. Even in the case of, we'll expand programmers to not just these programmers, but and engineers, steering committees, etc. Are all literally exist as players in the stage, whether you kind of like it or not. And it's something big like the internet, and you become like a big player, even if you really don't want to involve in the people's politics. Eventually, you do get in somebody's way.
Yeah,
like I said,
I'm not.
Section 32, Section 230. Now you're in Trump's way. You didn't mean to be in Trump's way. You didn't mean to like get in his way at all. But,
Jack, I think you're missing the point here. Basically, ICANN is not going to come out and say that you must provide, ICANN, IANA, so forth, so on. They're not going to have policies that shun or condemn a government for censure of internet within their own national borders.
No, okay, so they're not going to do that. They're absolutely not going to do that. But like, okay, so they're the people with like kind of like the keys to like the DNS root zone, control like IP. Control IP address allocation spaces, like the big decisions, kind of almost seem inconsequential to a lot of people. But it's like they're the people kind of almost at the core of the internet. And it's not they're going to condemn anybody, and you're not asking them to either. In fact, quite the opposite. Not. But what happens is Trump eventually figures out that he's going to threaten telecom communications with 230. They're going to laugh because they're big corporations with their own security firms. And Trump's come January 1st is now there's a lot of powerful people that don't like that. But you get rid of that, right? And so when you talk about control of the internet, when you try to route around the United States, if those people reside in the United States, they can be threatened by law enforcement. They can be threatened by Trump's thugs. I mean,
so
these people don't really have an army.
Actually, in this regard, this conversation actually has been happened. Without going into too much detail, there is a rough plan of action of what to happen if the root server or the root server keys were to be seized. So, and the fact of the matter is that was a recognized. If you actually go into the old ICANN documents, there was actually a lot of discussion on what would happen, because ICANN ICANN styles itself like the United Nations, that they don't favor any one particular party that is subject to the domain name system. But it was recognized that the legal IANA corporation exists in the United States, and so it is hypothetically possible that it has been discussed. I don't know how much of an actual plan there is, but it's known as a route and there are at least some plans in the works if it was ever to come to pass, if the keys had to be moved. So
it's not just the keys moved; it's kind of the people. I mean, like regardless of like what you think of to a certain extent, if you are a U.S. person living in U.S. soil, you are beholden to U.S. law. Either that or to the resistance. And by that, I mean like,
well,
like
I would see it no different to how the wiser republic, in the process of becoming Nazi Germany, was slowly excluded more and more from the international community. I mean, after the Olympic Games, there was quite a bit of shunning and embargo from 1936 to 9, and I would see it play out much the same way as that did. They were excluded from the League of Nations.
Flee. But the whole point is, like, I'm trying to get at, right, is, when you have like the internet corporations inherently American, and you have a regime that kind of says, okay, well, you're an American, we're going to force you to do what we want because we just decided we're going to be assholes today.
Well, Jack, that's pushing. That is really, I gotta be honest, that's a stretch. Because people that are behind ICANN, the root server system, 99% of them are private citizens.
Yeah, they are private citizens. I mean, so are 99% of like the people who get their face kicked in by protesters, or the people who get harassed by like alt-rightists. And the big thing that's stopping them right now is most of these idiots are just too stupid to figure out like who these people are, or even if they did, they don't understand the relevance, or even know what they could do. But you can't expect that to go on forever, ever. So I think it was almost kind of, especially it's going to be, especially with like the internet, is like, can the rest of like like WhatsApp, like the U.S. becomes a black hole. Can the rest of the internet survive without the U.S.? And then of course DNS root server, and then decision making capability by ICANN IANA cannot exist without the U.S.
Yes.
And the people who are on that, okay, good.
Yes, I will admit that I would say about 75% of the physical infrastructure is based in the United States, and if the United States was to go poof off the internet, the European backhauls are nowhere near as good a quality. The backhauls, most of the traffic that goes between Europe and Asia actually goes through the United States because of the way the cables are laid. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is, you could reasonably route around the United States and be done with it. It would mostly just require running new cables to connect Europe and Asia, and there's already efforts around that. So there would be disruptions, but assuming absolute worst case 1984 scenario, I am fully believe that the internet could successfully route around it, because the two things that there's two things that underpin the heart of the internet, and that's the Border Gateway Protocol and the root DNS zone. Now, if the DNSSEC keys are not validated by the end user consumer, they are validated by what's known as recursive resolvers. I will not go into the specifics of DNSSEC, but if the root zone actually had to be rekeyed, it would not be a catastrophic disaster. That's primarily because DNSSEC doesn't actually work, but besides the point.
Yeah. So, like, at least the scenario I have in mind is Section 230 gets repealed. All of a sudden, maybe Joe Biden actually, like...
but I see, 230 is irrelevant to that sort of thing, because it only opens companies up to liability. It doesn't negate the first...
So I'm not in 230. I'm thinking about, like, 2 or 3 steps ahead, right?
Oh, okay. I
So
see where you're going with this.
we're not at 230 here. We're 2 or 3 steps ahead, where everyone on the internet, like all the video sharing services, everyone says, like, okay, fuck this. The internet's faster in Europe anyway, right? We're just gonna go rehost. We're just gonna go host in Germany. The pretzels are great, the sausage and the sour bread, and the beer is phenomenal. And if the German beer is not good enough for you, it's a short train ride up to Belgium, and they have even better beer. You have French wine, and some people are like, yeah, fucking Europe, or put them in Iceland or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of they get the message that okay, like all the American companies are moving to Germany. The United States just panics and says, okay, there goes our GDP. What can we do about this now that these companies are moving over there? We're losing the money. And on top of that, they're just basically flaunting U.S. law. They're like, fuck you to U.S.
Well,
law. It's
Jack, I mean, look at historical precedents. You know, the United States only became a superpower after the end of the World War II. We were essentially,
yeah, okay.
not much. We weren't exactly a world power until the British Empire and the French colonies.
I know. Okay, look, I know this, right? I
Yeah.
know this, but we're not talking about World War II, and we're not talking about the power structures which are long dead. We're talking
But
about the internet,
but it's the same thing. Is
which
that trade? International trade was built on the back of things like the British East Indies
yes.
Company.
Okay, so I get that, right? But we're talking very specific, not global trade, not like the world economy. We're very specifically the internet, which is based around the United States, which is really based around United States infrastructure, and then maybe potentially the first international link, British infrastructure. So the United States goes tits up. And they said, okay, and it escalates to the point where the United States says, okay, because we're the United States, actually, this is our network because it used to be run by the Department of Defense. It used to just be known as NIPRNet. Okay, we're taking our ball and everything that we can grab, and we're just either disconnecting it or smashing it.
So let's assume I will storyboard how this would play out. So in general, right now, the internet infrastructure I believe it's free under main trunks between Europe and the United States. A lot of dead fibers.
And
so let's assume
basically everybody in the Internet Corporation goes, yeah, you're a government agency again, and because of this policy, you report to your new desk, or we're sending in little green men or whatever. You'll be brought back either.
Right. Well, let me give you an idea of how this would play out. So let's just say that the United States goes completely crazy and goes full North Korea and cuts the wires. I will actually storyboard how this will play out from an infrastructure. Once the United States goes off the internet, the BGP routes for all U.S. prefixes would be taken offline. That means that the routing tables would be recalculated to the nearest route, bypassing the United States. Now, 10 of the 13 root servers are based in the United States. It's just unfortunate history, but 3 of them are not, and the Anycast ones are not. So with no valid root, DNS resolvers will go right down the list to the first one they can reach. That is specification. That is DNS specification. So the only problems you have is that you cannot easily change the root zone, but that only requires rekeying the root. And we've already done this. We know what it takes to rekey the root, and in those type of circumstances, it can be done. And the loss of the global key means we can't change the contents. There is no revocation feature in DNSSEC, so you can replay old records. It's actually a real security problem with DNSSEC.
Okay, so I get that, but we're also talking about, like, to do this, you need people. And if these people are in the United States, there's a chance that some of them will just continue working, doing whatever the government says. They'll go into hiding. Somebody outside the United States actually has to make this happen.
And there will. There are people that are in positions that could definitely take care of it. Probably it would be under the aegis, I can fully see multiple succession paths if the entire United States infrastructure collapses. There is There is enough redundancy built into the system that this would not play out, because the 2 big things you need to worry about, the IP registries are already segregated into regions. So you're basically talking about if Aaron goes. So the other big problem is DNS, and the DNS system is already distributed into multiple root servers, which, besides the Anycast one, you still have 3 that are physically located in Europe. And like I said, calls to the root will go to multiple root servers until it gets to one that works. It will go down the list. So basically, it would not take all that much effort to route around the United States because all the infrastructure to do so exists. Because remember, the internet was built for unreliable fixed links, and that core functionality still exists at the very heart of both DNS and all routing protocols.
So here's hoping to that holds.
Well, let's be honest. We're not going to reenact Fallout just to test how good the internet.
So just to be clear, it's the very unlikely. What happens if things go to hell? Internet's in the United States is censored, so we start moving all of our hosting like offshore. We start paying like in Hetzner or Ninjala. There's like your Norwegian kind of paying Bitcoin, or and then it's going to be the rabbit hole of just how much do they actually have to ban, and how much do they have to censor to really enforce a removal of Section 230 and prevent like Americans from just hosting American content in Germany and being like, yeah, well, fuck off. I mean, so I guess there's that. So I guess next topic, I guess.
I don't know. It's just.
I mean, I
know that you and I and Side Pocket and most of the people that are watching this stream and running our social circles, we've always been expecting something like this because I think we all saw the writing on the wall years ago. But I'm still having a very surreal sense of what just happened. I mean, do you feel the same way?
With Trump, yeah. With like the storm the Capitol, yeah.
Yeah.
Because as far as they did.
It's
so like the big thing. I mean, like as far as like the violence, like it's like you can ask Side Pocket. It didn't start with Trump.
No.
Trump was actually a very latecomer to the game because for a while he was a liberal. And then before he became a conservative, he saw this existing already, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take advantage of something that's literally been existed for years." I think I mentioned the Turner Diaries. The United States slowly goes all the way back to the Know Nothing Party in the 1850s, when their members would be questioned, they would say, "I know nothing." Know Nothings also founded the ironically named Native American Party, not like what we consider Native Americans, but native-born white Americans. It was kind of what they meant by this. So even before the Civil War, I mean, they had conspiracies. They lost the Civil War, and the only thing left they had was conspiracies. So pretty much since then, we've seen stuff like this in one manifestation or another. What really surprised me, pretty much, was they actually got into the Capitol building, and they actually disrupted, actually got into Congress and stole stuff from like the Speaker of the House. The one thing I heard, a woman died. I didn't realize there was an execution.
Yeah, no. So Twitter. I haven't seen the video. This is apparently relatively new. I had heard in the earlier news reports that a woman had been killed, but apparently there was some sort of execution. They make a reference to PogChamp during the video. I have not collaborated that. It's not been. It hasn't made mainstream media as of yet, and I haven't had the time to go digging for it.
Okay, so these Trumpers literally executed somebody.
Yeah, the name hasn't been revealed, but
wow, yeah. So again, that's basically my hey, Saint, my ninjas, good home slice. So what my fear is, right, is because Biden ran on to, kind of like very much a reconcilious platform, and it's very clear that a lot of people don't want to reconciliate. The whole platform, he's like said he has no intention to charge anyone in the Trump administration. And again, the Capitol Police just like let these people like walk out of there, and they let the people walk home. And then like somebody's dead. Like I said, somebody's dead. They literally just somebody walked off with on the speaker's podium from Congress, right? This is comparing this to like kind of like stacking at this point. This is very much same vibe. And the Republicans, for all their claims about nationalism and liberals hate America, we're kind of on the side that like made this happen. Very like weak response from this. And that's just exactly what happened. Is like somebody's literally went into Congress and sacked Congress.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, they posted on like I seen some. They posted
Hold
calling
on,
themselves
Jack. I
revolutionaries.
need to address this.
Okay.
I am not going to the folks in chat.
Uh,
You can talk about the vid. Do not post the link in chat because it will be a violation of Twitch's rule. I will swing the ban hammer if someone posts it. You have been warned.
yeah. Also, don't mean to beat this up too much. Game Master 21, whatever. We literally don't care who has better anime technology
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we
okay.
don't need to be banned off Twitch because that got posted in our chat.
Yes. Okay. It's very, very good. Very good. We definitely don't want to get banned off Twitch. But anyway, these people call themselves revolutionaries, and it's interesting to say. It's like it's everything that they basically accuse like the left and Antifa of doing. They're like, yeah, well, we're just going to actually try like an armed coup against the United States of America. We out like calling themselves revolutionaries and blah blah blah. And then again, complete muted response from the government. We kind of expect a lot of that, is because like just looked this up. The DC, the District of Columbia National Guard, is not beholden to the mayor or any elected official in the District of Columbia. They're kind of more of they report directly towards the president. They are the only National Guard which are federal troops 100% of the time. So they depart directly to the Department of Defense, and specifically for again literally guard duty of what you call Congress and the nation's capital, but they're controlled by the president directly.
So
So
I
he
actually
can tell them to.
I want
He
to
can.
actually
He
make a
can.
point about this because Side Pocket just made a comment. I don't know if you've been watching the actual video stream, but I am wearing the Circle of Hope shirt, and I think I have actually actively avoided talking about this topic, but I think we should probably recap it at what happened at Hope 2018 with the MAGAs, just to give you an
Yeah.
idea of how this shit plays out.
Like ironically enough, it's like I think a lot of people dropped the ball. They basically said like, okay, Hope has uh, what's it called, reputation for being a left-leaning hacker con. We're just going to come in here and disrupt it. All the core staff got like individual threats. Had this little dickhead named William Genovese, threatened me. He threatened, made alt accounts and threatened like all the staff on Twitter. Now he's claiming victim. Now he's like him and his mob buddies are like, yeah, I was a victim here. Blah 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 blah. Um, Not exactly true, but and then so they're like, yeah, we're just going to be passive aggressive as fuck, and then we're going to just find every ways that we can go fuck with this conference, and then tweeted out this story about like how intolerable like the left was because whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean,
And
that's
then of
essentially what it
course
boils.
like
That's essentially what it boils down to. I mean, if you look at
security.
what happened at Hope and look at with slightly less violence, it's almost exactly what happened to the
Mhm.
U.S. Capitol, except there was a lot more
Yeah.
people at play there.
Yeah, and like a lot of times, both times, like there was too many people who were like, "Oh yeah, we can't take a hard stance against them because reasons," and they played the security like people very well, and then people just didn't take like what they should like a hard enough stance and be like, these people just literally don't have any honest intent here. They're just here to fuck around and just
Yeah.
discredit the place.
No, I understand how
Um,
Hope's staff came to that decision, and I don't want to go too deep into it. I mean, but the reason I brought this up is
oh,
that you essentially have had this for those of us who are on the left wing, we hold civil liberties pretty fracking high, including the First Amendment. I find hate
ah,
speech repugnant, but I also recognize that it's a very easy way to say that you start banning one topic, you ban more topics, yada 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 yada. I mean,
I mean,
that's
it
usually
kind
how
of
this plays out.
I think it's just kind of when it gets down to very a lot of misnomers when it comes to this and freedom of speech and kind of um, uh, what's it called? A lot of this kind of gets back to very conservative view on freedom of speech, especially views expressed by like Barry Goldwater in 1964 when he ran for Congress. He openly quoted the KKK, right, and like all the disadvantaged Dixiecrats who were kind of mad that Johnson, again, who was a Dixiecrat and previously somewhat racist, but actually signed the civil rights law. They were just so pissed off about him sending a civil rights bill. They're like, yeah, we're going to vote. And then Barry Goldwater, who at the time billed himself as a liberal, said, yeah, you can join the Republicans because
I mean,
neoliberalism is more important than kind of civil rights. And the University of Ideas is basically what he called it back then. So a kind of that very much University of Ideas, and the ACLU defended the right of the KKK to speak back in the 60s, and it created this free speech myth. It was never ever true, because anybody who's grown up listening to any sort of rock and roll, noticing like, you know, you got demonized in the news and the cops come to break up your parties, and like what's it called, you know, basically get accused, you know, whatever, anything like remember the 20th, somebody remembers the 20th century too well. You basically have um, you know, by the mid 20th century, there's basically one acceptable mustache. By the 1990s, there's no acceptable male facial hair, and then you basically, almost like you have Iran today, there was like 5 acceptable haircuts. These are the same people who are talking about freedom of speech, mind you. Of course, there's also the rock and roll free speech, man, because, you know, you wanted to hear like various rock and roll, and people kind of forget kind of like why punk rock, metal, and hip hop are so fucking angry, specifically because like music was kind of outlaw, because very much is very right wing, evangelical regime, and people, no one ever wants to talk to them. Where people are like, oh, it didn't really happen, blah 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 blah. You know, Reagan loved civil liberties, and it gets back to kind of like Barry Goldwater. It's like, yeah, we don't like the Ku Klux Klan, but we tolerate their opinions. But it turns out the same people had a lot of other opinions that they really didn't tolerate. As you can mention, we got into the Stonewall riots. I mean, why are there gay bars? I mean, it's because gay people couldn't be openly gay in straight bars. I mean, later in the 70s, you found gay clubs, and you can be gay or you know, kind of court same-sex partners in the straight clubs, and it's not, you just couldn't do it like, oh, it's a technicality. It's there's violence was used, dehumanization was used. So you have like it's like I said, it's very, you know, you take for granted today that everything is now, a lot of the struggles of the 20th century now gone. A lot of them resolved in the favor of civil liberties. But you have to remember that kind of a lot of this argument on free speech and this extreme free speech never really existed. This is just not something that ever existed. Um, there's a lot of kind of a lot of times when you have context behind civil rights movements never depended on free speech, because you got out in the street anyway, you made noise, whatever. I mean, you know, a lot of times you look at American history. I mean, the first, I mean, because like I went a million times as a kid. I got involved with freedom of speech when I was a kid, because, you know, people were seriously wanted to lock people up for playing rock and roll, and like, it sounds ridiculous today, but it really wasn't so ridiculous in the 80s and the 90s. You know, heavy metal was literally blamed for murders. It was the Satanic Panic. You know, what's it called? Uh, what's his name? Geraldo, who's now on Fox News, was on ABC back then. He broke a story claiming that heavy metal was worshiping Satan and causing murders. It's entirely made up. I mean, a couple was convicted based on the testimony of a woman done under hypnosis and kind of coerced into giving false answers. And that actually went through court, and people actually went to jail for murders that never actually, not only they didn't happen, actually, that nobody
mm-hmm.
actually died. So it's like people think it's like that's an actual legitimate witch hunt, like actual looking for like witch hunt on U.S. soil, literally within my lifetime is what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you know, again, it's like when we talk about like why punk rockers get mad if you don't want to learn a narrative. One of the stories is the narrative of how the Dead Kennedys broke up. The story of the Frankenchrist obscenity trial. That if you're going to call yourself a punk rocker, you better fucking know that one. You know, might like the Dead Kennedys, might not, but you're gonna know the story, because the story is basically what's it called? There's this amazing what's called Jello Biafra was actually friends with H.R. Geiger, right? So he had H.R. Geiger commission this piece for the last Dead Kennedys album, Frankenchrist. and it was just a whole bunch of dicks going into vaginas. Very tasteful H.R. Geiger style. This is an actual H.R. Geiger work. The surrealist H.R. Geiger. He puts this like not even the cover. It's like his inlet. He basically has this political commentary in the United States at the time. Specifically, there was this anti-obscenity law that was passed. With the whole Tipper Gore thing, he was gonna be like, you know what, screw you. We're gonna defy this because we're gonna protest it. This is how we're gonna protest this, right? And he does it tastefully. He has works by kind of legendary artists literally do a legendary sketch, and basically they literally get raided. And this is taken off the shelves. This is hauled before Congress. This is porn rock. This is impurity. This is like zapping and frying the children, and they get arrested. And like you think like I mean, so you look at everything Pussy Riot did, right? And then you look what little that like punk rockers actually went to jail for in the '80s, or almost went to jail for. And you're like literally just a really tastefully drawn like high art like portrait of dicks going into vaginas.
Jack, I think we get the idea. Let's get off the less vivid topic.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm a little bit tempted to call it early. I mean, today's been an emotional roller coaster. Is there anything? Do you know if Side Pocket's around? If we want to just get him in before we wrap it up for the night.
1 second. Let me go check.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the G.I. Jack and Commander crossover episode. Hold on to your beers, folks. While Jack's away from keyboard, I would like to reiterate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Pocket says he actually doesn't get his 2 cents in, so.
He what? You broke up.
I'm sorry. No, I just talked to him. He said he actually is going to come on and put his 2 cents in. So.
Okay. Well, no. He has to know that this is a high class show. It's a damn dime, and he knows that.
All right, he'll put a dime in. He'll put in whatever.
Yeah. No. What I was saying is, there are a lot of different opinions, but I do think there is a line, within the, shall we say, the left group. I mean, I know I don't completely match up with Jack or Side Pocket's opinions on a lot of things, but there is a basic human decency line which I like to think all human beings should adhere to. I know that it's not true, and that's really what I think is kind of at stake at the moment.
I mean, I think it's just kind of like at the point, it's like all over presumptions of kind of human decency are being challenged. It's everything that like we kind of that like I like if people were paying attention for years would have probably told you are now kind of like right in the public square, like literally occupying the Capitol building. But the point I was trying to make before I really just went off on a tangent is there's nothing new. So I was talking about like there's a little stuff about just the mainstream. The mainstream is just so mad about just so little in rock and roll music. It should really be telling because it's not that like rock and roll is doing anything like that really outrageous. It's just that it's the fact that this gets hauled before Congress should be shocking. And then on the more extremist scale, like the actual fringe of the right, you have Timothy McVeigh, you have the Alan Goldberg murders in the '80s, Timothy McVeigh in 1996, the Atlanta bombings, the Atlanta Underground attempted bombings, right? Of if anybody remembers this, that Christian fundamentalist planted a terrorist planted a bomb in the Atlanta Underground during the 1996 Olympics.
Jack, I'm gonna just leave you here to talk because I need to take a manual break. I'll be back in 5.
Okay, so I guess I'll kind of rant.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we have it's like a lot of stuff, and then like literally abortion clinic bombings were every other weekend. It's like half of those images that you see about right-wing militia that you see posted on Facebook, those are from taken in the 1990s, and most of those like militia member have literally become memes, and kind of like unlike these 4chan dopes, these people weren't quite as dopish. It's just to the point though, they never did anything like storm the Capitol. A lot of because a lot of their worldview was pretty much more in their favor back then. We were fighting the Cold War against the communists. I guess they nominally anti-government. Cute anime girls. how is there cute anime girl technology? Nobody cares. But um, so it's like I said, there's like not just one thing, but you're talking like the big issues. I mean, a lot of these views were shockingly mainstream. This is the era where Leonard Skinner is out. It's the point where people still fondly remember this, and they kind of gloss over the fact that they just used a Confederate flag on everything, and that was allowed. So you don't necessarily see them storming like the Capitol because they really didn't need to. Dukes of Hazzard was around. This is when Harley Davidson, Harley Davidson put their
I'm back.
infamous. Welcome back, infamous Confederate edition. So these people didn't really, I think, feel threatened to really like attack Washington, even though like there were some terrorist attacks. But it's now, I guess, they stormed. They literally actually did storm Washington. And then the response from the government was pretty much put your, hands in your pockets. The response from the government was kind of Trump was the National Guard is on the is basically the DC National Guard is under his command, as opposed to now they're calling in National Guard from states of Virginia and Maryland because their governors have volunteered their National Guard as well as state police. Ring ring. I think that would be Mr. Pocket is. So I guess I will yield my time and let Side Pocket have a chance to put in his nickel or 10 cents.
Yeah. Oh, I see it. Hold on. Let me see if I can figure out how to get him in the call. So join call. Okay, hold on. Now I'm in 2 separate calls. I need. God damn it. This should not be this difficult.
Hang on.
It hung up on Jack.
For some reason.
Hold on. And also I can barely hear you. Turn the mic up. Yeah, no, I just accidentally hung up on Jack. How do I get Jack in here? Here we go. Add Jack to DM. Jack.
I'm more fascinating about it.
Oh, bloody hell. Jack isn't on my friends list because he's never on Discord, so I can't actually add him. Go to select friends, see if you can add him.
Headphones are plugged in.
Also, you really need to turn your mic up, Side Pocket. I can't hear you. I've got my speakers cranked. Yeah, I'm not hearing you, period. It's the DEF CON 201.
The delay, but
Side Pocket, I'm not hearing you at all. I'm seeing you light up, but I'm not hearing you.
I'm looking at this because some settings might have changed. This is probably. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You're going to have Jack either has to add me as a friend on Discord, or you have to add him. Because if you want, I keep him in the call. Because when I picked up your call, it disconnected Jack.
Try this one.
Yeah, there we go. Now I hear you.
That one not working?
No, I hear you. I hear you. You can be heard. Side Pocket, you had it working. You had it working.
Does it work fine now? Try this one.
So it's not a DEF CON 201 stream unless there are technical difficulties to be had. Technical difficulties have been had.
For some reason, I can't hear you for some reason.
Oh, you can't hear me.
We didn't have this problem before. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, I know what happened. Hold on. No, that's not the problem. It's not a DEF CON testing.
Okay, I'm going to do a click run through very slowly
to
compensate for the lag, and I'm going to figure out which one it is. So we're now doing the Yeti.
Oh, you can't hear me.
Testing. Okay, so the USB one did work. Okay, going back to that. That's what I need to know.
Side Pocket, can you hear me now?
It feels like an hour long.
Can you hear me now, Side Pocket?
So just ignore what I said before, but for some reason, I cannot hear you whatsoever. It might be OBS.
Are you? Oh, you're on Windows, aren't you? Make sure. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Make sure the audio output is not Blue Yeti. That's the mic jack on the. Let's see.
Let me just look through to make sure there's no other program or something that's somehow taking up all the hearing stuff, because I can adjust my volume in here.
Sorry, guys. I have to type because side buckets.
See. Okay. That should be the TV audio right there. Yes, it is. This is the headphone audio.
Of course, he's not looking at chat. I'm typing into this.
Because I can do this. We just have to compensate for the super massive delay. That's all.
I know. Hold on.
Off and check for food.
Side pocket. Look at Discord chat. That's the problem. You need to change the audio output. Click the arrow.
Right, click under mic and check output source.
Okay.
Oh, I see here.
Okay.
How about this? There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
You know, you I don't know if you realize how badly latency latency tweaks me.
Yes.
Especially because I've gone re-involved with FTL development.
That's why Microsoft decided to just shit can your research. Yes. Don't you hate that?
Yes. Hey, sorry. This is how you tweak NCommander.
Ah, ew. Okay, that wasn't my goal. So, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
What did I miss?
So, you know,
I've been watching everything. I woke up to all of this.
I didn't catch it. I've been keeping the news off because I can only doom scroll so much in 24 hours.
Doom scroll.
Well, you give me a better idea of what Twitter's been like for the last year.
No, I like that naming convention. That needs to be like standardized. Like that's the era we live in, the doom scroll era.
Say, do me a favor, Side Pocket, and acknowledge Sane My Ninjas. He wants Senpai to notice him.
Okay. Hi, Say My Ninjas. I have now noticed you. You can please put down my hug pillow now. I appreciate that. Oh, I actually have to upgrade this app. Huh. Let's see if I can do that.
No, don't do that. Do not install updates while on stream. We've already been down this particular road.
No. This is for the police radio stuff.
I mean, I don't know if it... Did you guys have sirens going by your place like all day today?
Here's the weird part. We had that, we had just one, and that's it.
Yeah, no. I think, at risk of doxing myself, I live on a very... one block from a very major thoroughfare, in Jersey City. So I hear basically anything going through the area, and it was a freaking conga line.
So right now there are...
Oh, whoa, hold on. There's been an update. House Judiciary Committee Democrats urge Pence to invoke 25th Amendment.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I've been trying to keep up with on that. And also, over 1,000 people are listening to the Metropolitan Washington Airport Authority because of the protest.
Did anyone have anything, Biden being the
need to say this.
47th president?
Joe Biden.
The 47th president instead of 46 with a 2.
As much as I don't like her, can we just skip to Pelosi for 2 days and then get this over with? Or just have Harambe. There we go. Then we come full circle.
I don't know. I don't know. If it's just technically speaking, if Pence becomes president, there will be no vice president unless Pence appoints one for the 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's happened.
That will be kind of like what Louis Black talked about, how we should elect a dead president, which is essentially what we did.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just, I can't help but realize that maybe the attack on the U.S. Capitol has woken up the Sanders that they're just as vulnerable as the American people to this right-wing bullshit. Because God knows how many people have been saying that we should invoke the 25th Amendment.
Mm-hmm. Something that I've been saying for a while now is as someone who grew up in the 90s and then this started to dissipate in the 2000s, I would classify that era as this giant bubble of hubris. And what's been driving me insane is that I vividly remember in the 90s, like there were so many, for good and for bad reason, political coups in like smaller, less developed countries. Not necessarily there were like third world countries, but less developed or struggling. So there was countries in Eastern Europe, Africa, Central and South America, and I'll answer that question in a moment, Game Master. And so like what I hated was the Americans, and not only just our government but our culture, are like, look at these pissant people, like, thank God we have all this wasps, civilization, because we're like we are the first world government. We wouldn't fall for bullcrap like that, like the local population storming their capital and lighting their buildings on fire. And so what does that say about this? Like, we're the shithole country, basically, as we've always been, except we just had first world money, and now that we don't have that, everyone can now see us for what we are.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to disagree to that. I mean, I think what's always driven me completely crazy, because, I fall under the group of people.
Free BSD didn't already?
Side pocket, I live close enough that I could leave you the stream running, go over to the house, smack you upside the head, and walk back here.
That would only be worth it if you could put like a cardboard cutout of yourself on the camera and storm off, and you just hear the audio like 20 minutes later.
Honestly, I have the equipment. I could literally live stream myself going over to 201 house. Except I doxed both of us in the process.
Yes, and also I also don't want any major dips to knock out the stream, especially for stuff that we're talking about here. The fun part about it, though, is that what was I getting to with this? Because my brain is especially not working today because of this. And what's been also crazy is all the news that has been lost in the gap too because of all of this. Like, I just want to do a shout out that apparently, I don't know if it was today or earlier, but there was like a huge disabilities rights protest that the police brutally cracked down on, and that WhatsApp pulled a Oculus shocked Pikachu face that you either could not use the app, or if you use the app, they're going to tell all your data to basically any world government, particularly the United States. So,
yay!
The island known as the internet just keeps getting smaller and smaller. So to answer the question someone said about, did the internet ever be truly censored completely? As I said in the chat earlier, it's kind of like, okay, so I'm glad we have the mature thing on, because I'm going to bring up this analogy, right?
Red alert, batten down the hatches.
Yes. One of the reasons why, and this is my experience as a minority in multiple different forms, but in this case, especially a racial minority, is I used to get asked that, like, okay, so why don't we have, I mean, we have this now, but like, why didn't we have like roving bands of white supremacists going around actively lynching people? Which is why people think this racism type stuff died out, because we have this false belief that we need to see the most extreme of it to be there. So like, if people aren't being hanged or punched in the face, then there's no racism somehow. And that applies to any isms, classism, sexism, text editorism, whatever. And so what's been bothering me is that, like, I've told people that a lot of this stuff, because of systematic racism, basically the question is, why should racist people bother to actively waste their time hunting people down to get rid of, when they can essentially destabilize the group that they hate so much that basically they do it to themselves, and thus they don't have to lift a finger. and we're, that's the part that's been that's the part to me with the internet stuff is, I mean, if you could see with Sestafosa stuff, they're not going to try to, first of all, I don't think they can fully censor the internet, and if so, it's going to be a lot of work. And not only will be a lot of work, the way they're going to do it is not one full swoop, like destroy 3 nodes or whatever. It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts, and all of them are going to be policy. It's the blind spot that tech either actively or in ignorance constantly engage in, is that blind spot where You know, they think that the virtue, and it's because of how we were brought up as a country of the 50s and 60s with our propaganda, that the virtualness that we have tech will somehow solve everything, which is why we have all these angry boomers, Gen Xers, and older millennials, because essentially we have flying cars and smartphones and porn 24/7, but we haven't improved society-wise since like the Great Triangle Fire. So it's like, what's the point of having like VR headsets if there's no food? Or we have giant diseases running around everywhere, or it's free to murder people like it's the Purge. And that's the disconnect we have between our technological element and our societal element, because we keep separating them as two different things, or thinking that the technology end is going to dominate the societal end, when it's the other way around. We're all humans. The internet's a network of humans. We're the ones who dictate technology normally, not the other way around, fundamentally, in my opinion. So does NASA record? By the way, am I still on here? Is it like, I just want to make sure the stream
you're still live.
Okay. Still on air. 1984, yeah, 1984. That's right, man. There are no names. Now, that I will actually say something here. I can't talk about of a type of script I was writing. I'll do the hint about that. But I hate when people bring up 1984, because while parts of that is still relevant, I don't think we're in a 1984 hell. We are in a Brave New World hell. And to put it in a very loose perspective, 1984 hell is giant institutions that are beyond individuals that are watching and maintain everything. The Brave New World hell is that we have so much information and freedom that they all become mass vector points for easy manipulation. Thus the phrase, it's no longer Big Brother anymore, it's a little snitch. To me, this is one of, and Cory Doctorow brought this up at RC3, this is one of the big failings of U.S. libertarian internet that I vividly remember being banned from back in the day, where, again, they thought by the virtue of having technology, the fact that like theoretical concepts like Wikipedia exists and torrenting exists, that we would be in some sort of rational scientific mecca. You know, the old, oh, if religions died, we would have no more problems, when the reverse is basically true, that because of the amount of tech, it's now easier to convert idiots over to your cause. And no one ever thought to, how do we deal with that? And some of those on purpose talked out of both sides of their mouth. I'm looking at you, Eric Bloodaxe, and manipulated for both of those. So that's just my opinion on that. Also to note, in the UK now, George Orwell stuff is in public domain.
Oh, shiny.
Yes.
I'm currently I admit I've been doom scrolling and listening to you. I'm mostly reading how the rest of the world has seeing how Trump is handling this. I actually am curious if he's legitimately going to get impeached 2 weeks before he's supposed to
Sorry, I'm laughing because some of the people who originally were going to object against this stuff after the storm had reversed their decision on trying to protest.
And yet, Senator Hallway from Pennsylvania is rocking to the objection.
Oh yeah, no, that's why I think there's going to be probably a local Pennsylvanian thing next, because there's a huge disconnect right now between Pennsylvanian citizens and their government at this point. But one of the people who shockingly changed their opinion, apparently, is good old lion Ted Cruz, who was one of the biggest proponents of trying to turn over the electoral votes. So,
well, I'm not convinced that Ted Cruz has had an independent idea since the mid-'70s.
He's trying. He hasn't had an independent anything except for his dick and his balls. Yeah, no, he's basically trying to save face. He doesn't.
Oh wow! Holy cow! McConnell just did a full about face and blasted Trump.
Yeah, no,
We're debating a step.
They're going to attempt to excuse this off, and that's the whole point, is we have to do a mantra of, you know, in the same way how there was a lot of established Dems in the 90s that caused the hellscape or was responsible for paving the road to the hellscape. We have to remind people that, no, they're like, no, we see, we did the thing you like. It's like, no, we remember, you all either looked away on purpose or liked this. Honestly, here's something that I think a lot of people, I feel like, aren't talking about. I've seen this problem apparently recently in New York, which is between the NYPD officer who, when they tried to bust that guy in Staten Island, because it's Staten Island, who had his restaurant open, restaurant owner, white guy, by the way, just white cis dude, by the way, just to keep the track record here. Got in his car, did a chase, and ran over an officer so bad that essentially twisted his legs off. And then they just let him walk away. And between the response of the federal police to this, part of security, if we want to bring this back to a hacker security thing, is all about your projection. You know, it's about trying to do the cloud out there that, like, the big iron, this is hard to hack. It's not true, but that sort of myth and facade is part of the security. It's, you know, the same reason why, that's to show on my show, Master of Unlocking, there's a lot of doorknobs that can be picked apart, but just because of how, like, oh, if you put a padlock on this, no one can enter. That's a lot of the security, and the police use that a lot. That's why they walk a certain way and they do it. Now that they know that people can walk all over them, no one basically, I hate using this term, everyone's seeing them as cucks now. And it's like, oh, you can just walk all over them now, especially if you're white. Awesome. So people are going to keep doing that, and that's lab proceedings. And that's why I have all these police officers now, except for some ex-police officers I know who got out of this because of this type of bullshit, who are having shock Pikachu face that the leopards are trying to eat them, you know? It's just been amazing. I'm going to look in chat for a moment here.
Yeah, sorry. I'm slightly multitasking because I'm kind of...
Same.
Like I said, I don't know if you were listening to the early part of the stream, but, you know, I am... doxing alert, I am 30x years old, and in my lifetime, I have seen 2 major cases of human-caused disaster in this country. I mean, I don't know where you were when the towers came, but I remember that really vividly.
I was thinking too, I could tell that story. Technically 3 if you count Katrina as that.
I was out of the country for that one, so I don't actually remember that one quite as clearly as most.
I will also say that at least 2 out of the 3 of these were bad shit that happened that even if the United States theoretically had nothing to do with it, definitely co-opted this for their own reasons. Kind of like how a stimulus bill has an entire article about how we deal with alien life and shit like that. But so 2 Towers, it was my freshman year of high school. This is a quick short story. I was at home because I was sick with a really bad cold. And I literally remember my mom called in that I was sick. She left for work, and I was closing my eyes. I was on the couch with the blanket over me filled with snot, and there was like a warm bowl of soup in front on the table. And I closed my eyes going, wow, today really sucks because I was actually really excited to go to school. I hope this day doesn't get worse. And then I woke up, and the soup was cold. Now, here's the problem. This might make you laugh. So the horror for me was turning on the TV, and there was no signal. It was just static. If for all of you don't remember what static is when you can't find the signal, it just produces a bunch of noise visually and auditorily, because I've reached that point in terms of age. And and then I was going through the channels, and then I thought, hey, maybe our TV bill got cut off again. And I picked up the phone and I heard the emergency alert. And I'm such a horror movie fanatic that up until I found channel 2, which showed the 10 seconds after the plane hit, I legit thought we were in a zombie apocalypse. Yeah. Because that's what I've seen in media. It's like there's no TV, the phones. I was expecting to open out like the curtains outside, and there's just undead people walking around and eating people. And I found channel 2 and I saw that. And the crazy part is the first thing I thought of was, remember, I'm a freshman in high school, so I'm not as well articulated. I'm like, oh God, that's the Mecca people we screwed over. This is revenge. This is not going to be pretty between them and us.
And it wasn't.
It was not. I told my relatives that. It's like, this is way before they announced it was the Middle East. I'm like, I guarantee this is the Middle East. This is revenge for a bunch of bullshit that we pulled for everyone during my mom's time period, which is why my mom was pissed. Also, to note, my mom worked on the first couple of floors of Building 1, had to leave work early, and they saw the plane fly overhead before it entered the tunnel. And they were wondering why the plane flew so low. And because of the way tunnels back were, even if you had smartphones and stuff or radios, you couldn't get any signals. And when they exited, that's when all the radios clicked on and they announced the emergency alert and everyone was screaming and everything. So all I was thinking is that I just saw the tower and I'm like, my mom's in there I hope she's and then like 20 minutes later she opened the door, and I think that was one of the most like happiest moments of my life. So yeah, I vividly remember that. I will say that I'm going to spend a couple of seconds just to check what I have in the oven.
That's
and
fine.
I apologize.
No, so I've been I've been, and trust me, I am listening here. So I just want to note that as of right now, we currently have pro-Trump crowds marching on state houses countrywide, which
yes,
which
in a simultaneous attack.
That actually may explain why I'm hearing the sirens, because isn't one of the Jersey City state houses pretty close to me?
Not only that, although I doubt that might be it, because they usually target like more like states.
We would expect Trenton, but
yeah. But the other thing about that I've heard is that
I'll put this on the other tab.
If I remember correctly, I know New York is on standby. New Jersey was one of the first who basically offered, hey, we know that it's tricky because this should be a federal thing, but if you need to send National Guard, we are ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of been part of the course. The tri-state area, so basically New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, have basically given the giant middle finger to Washington, and the pandemic has been under control here. We only lost it about 2 months ago because all the F-nuts basically, you're all probably sick to death of pandemic news, but
we're one of the most, real quick, we're one of the most dense states. So basically, if something happens either, and especially if it's both New York or Pennsylvania, it's inevitable. It's going to happen to us just because of how dense we are, small, and we're packed between two. We're basically the South Korea of like the Northeast.
Yeah. Kansas, protesters have broken into the Kansas State House.
Yep, that happened. I'll be right back. Keep talking. I just want to check food real quick.
Yeah, there's been more. See here, Columbus won, lots of guns, Proud Boys, Trump flags. I mean, this is how a freaking civil war breaks out, because for people who know me, I used to travel quite a lot before health became a fracking issue. And the biggest issue is I actually visited Iraq and Egypt as a tourist. I didn't have any problems in Iraq, but when I was in Egypt, this was right as the Arab Spring was starting to go full tilt, and this was the day they threw Murbank out of office. So I saw legitimate wide-scale rioting all throughout Egypt, and I mean, this isn't like the Black Lives Matter protests. This is like, holy crap, they're going to burn Cairo down sort of protests, because it was. There was 2 shootings outside my hostel. I was on a fixed itinerary. I could not change the order of flights. So I basically just made the best of it. And to be fair, I had the entirety of the Great Pyramids to myself because anyone with a brain had gone out of there, which says a lot about me.
I'm not making that joke, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Something free BSD. No, but
Say my ninjas, the national news is basically going to focus on the DC situation, but if let's actually for new I'll look at NY1 news, because that's pretty good for the New York, New Jersey area. Let's see what's been happening for us, because they'll only talk about us for the most part.
Right now I'm looking at different what did you call it, like my scanner app, which I posted the link for earlier. I'm not saying it's blowing up, but basically multiple places across the United States is increasing, and I'm assuming it's because similar smaller things are happening.
Well, I mean, what you get down to is that for something like the DC to storm the Capitol building, law enforcement more or less had to let it happen. I mean, I don't really want to say that, but the entire the real big point of the Black Lives Protest Matters was to defund and break the police because of the institutionalized racism into it. And we just saw what in my opinion, is essentially unsurmountable proof that everything at the heart of the BLM protest is true, or at least very close to the truth.
Here's a simple thing in talking about, like, why would you want to defund the police, right? How much do we spend on particularly military defense? And
I'm actually going to pull. Hold on, folks. Just for the record, do you want to know what the budget is for NYPD?
The proposed one, at least, yeah. Not even just NYPD, like just our overall, because this is DC, that's the main attack, just our defenses.
The budget for NYPD is $10 billion.
Yep. And if I remember correctly, our capital is way more than that to particularly secure the government buildings. Where the fuck is the money going? Because apparently 5 assholes just YOLO'd their way in.
Let me put for the money that we pay for NYPD, we could literally send all the assemblymen in Albany on a SpaceX rocket and have leftovers.
I'm just wanting to see again the receipts here, where it's just that, like, what do you put it? Where, like, essentially we're paying like X amount of $1 billion to defend our capital, and all we got was Norton antivirus.
No. Wait a moment. Wait a moment. Norton antivirus has a very important role. Norton antivirus slows down your computer so much that you know it's working. I'm not even convinced that the budget does that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really going to slander the good name of Norton antivirus to compare it to the DC Police Department and similar?
I didn't know there was a word.
Yes, I will actually defend Norton over the current law enforcement.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you're right, Sam and Ninjas. NYPD has bigger budgets than entire ass countries, particularly for their military. And again, they had a dude from Staten Island run one of their guys over, and like cucks, they looked at their shoes and walked away.
Yeah, we had what was it, like last month? They had the police the head of the NYPD union held a Proud Boys rally in Staten Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm new to living in New Jersey, but I can't imagine JCPD is all that much better.
Okay, so here's what I will probably put about Jersey City Police Department, right? The two things that I think I can say, because these were not in any confidential things, these are just hanging out, talking to people, right?
Mm-hmm.
On like my off time, is that one, the NYPD drives them insane. Like, it's just like a lot of problems that apparently that we have, but they really have about them. And the second thing is that I've been told numerous times, just as a normal citizen off duty, from white police officers around here, to not join the police force, because even though it's gotten better, there is a huge divide, not only in race, but of like old bees and newbies. So there's both a class and a race divide.
I mean, that legitimately reminds me of...
They're very open about that. So again, if this is Jersey City, now imagine what NYPD is like.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually throw some more onto that. For longtime viewers of HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDER, I was a legitimate line firefighter. I actually hold a Firefighting 1 certificate from New York State. And this type of... I don't want to use the term ideology, because the fire department is not the police department, but new ideas are not encouraged in these type of environments. And a lot of the reason before that is because you really don't need rooks thinking that they know more than the police chief. But you also get a lot of entrenched behavior. This is why hazing is very common in police departments, in fire departments, and even in ambulance corps. You know, I am going to get blowback because a lot of people downplay this. And I actually had a bit of a crisis because like I said, I was in a first responder for many years. So my relationship to police departments is quite a bit different than most people, because I was a firefighter in Monroe County. Monroe County Police Department and the New York State Sheriff's Department was responsible for keeping my ass safe because we were a fellow first responders. But I also I never saw any real corruption. I will be very blunt. Now, it is possible that I kind of ignored it and I don't remember it in hindsight. But I had a lot of problems when Black Lives Matters, because a lot of first responders decide to side with police forces because the way they perceive PD is positive, because PD is what we call when we are at risk And for the most part, we don't have problems because we're seen as brothers in arms, different branch, similar. It's like how, and Jack could elaborate on this, Jack was one branch of military. They piss on the Air Force, they piss on the Marines, but at the end of the day, they're still all U.S. military. So the fact is you have a very large culture that does not accept new ideas, and the old guard there has internalized some of the worst of it. I mean, the fact of the matter is, when you get right down to it, a lot, crime is highest in minority neighborhoods. A lot of that is because that's where police forces are, but it creates the notion that minorities are dangerous. And please, I'm just explaining the idea set. I do not subscribe to this at all. But that idea gets entrenched because when you're a line firefighter, when you're a policeman, when you're in the military, actually, we should have Jack talk about what's called the ORT loop, because that's what he should have been taught. That's the orient, objectify, react, implement, which is basically how you decide things. So you take the information around you and you look. And because a lot of crime is seen to be caused by minorities, police look harder at minorities. And there's no active way to discourage this because it's seen as if you ignore your senses, you're just going to get yourself killed. What they call street smarts.
Which is hilarious, by the way, because one of the big social
ODA loop, thank you.
Yeah, one of the big social engineering things, and I also wanted to say, Save My Ninjas, that we're pretty much going to raid Woke if Woke has opened up its raids again at the end of this, is that one of the big things is someone who does social engineering, for example. It's amazing how you can basically have one cognitive bias and it feeds into multiple cognitive biases. So a major cognitive bias that has roots in a bunch of stuff that I'm not gonna explain is that a lot of authority organizations, for example, let's say policing, have this notion where, and it's usually, even if it's not in the training, it's in the culture, right?
Yes.
That like, there's a lot of people, and like when you see the ads, it's always brown people in bandanas shooting people. So you're just like, oh, if they're brown, I need to be more careful. That's already bad because now you've basically accidentally escalated a situation that would not have been escalated.
Well, I mean, this is why racial profiling was actually upheld as constitutional, because it was seen as this person, you probably remember the controversy over racial profiling and the fact that the New York Supreme Court actually upheld it because it actually, I hate to say this, it did lower police casualties.
Yeah, and the thing is that they also, again, we were still vengeful against brown people for 9/11, except that, just while I put this out there, the brown people were in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan's government, not where we were going to. So the thing about it, though, is then, because of cognitive biases, right, you now have an opposite problem, which I've observed, and this is something I talked to ex-police people about that I know of, which is, because you now automatically assume that X thing is dangerous,
you're going to be looking for it.
You now have a giant blind spot for others. So essentially, here's a common scenario. Police officer pulls over, sometimes an Asian person, but usually a white male. They have a confrontation. The police person will stupidly turn physically around away from them to go back to their vehicle. And that white person, because they should be treating everyone as suspect, because they don't think they're a threat because they're an old white dude, all of a sudden a baseball bat comes out of nowhere, or they just use their bare hands and beat the shit out of them. That's like fairly common. And that's like, again, where like one cognitive bias directly feeds an exact opposite one, where it's like you have two flaws for the price of one.
Yeah, I mean, it's right, Jack. That's exactly the point, is that confirmation bias feeds it. I mean, it's and you have a very deeply and I know this because, like I said, I was a first responder. I wasn't PD, I was fire, but the mindset is really not that different.
There's a thing, I've actually heard a thing that I might be wrong about. So first of all, there's also the stereotype of, for example, of fire department from Long Island. Meaning that it's like they have giant R's next to them as well. But But there's also a thing too, and maybe this is a New Jersey thing. I don't know, because it's not like we're any better. But there's this like perception that it's like basically to some degree EMT and fire department people are seen as like they're cops that are too afraid to like have to shoot guns. You know, like that's their like perception, whether that's how they see themselves or not. That's sort of what they sort of give off. In the same way, again, of like the NYPD themselves wants to act tough, but when like a white person directly shoots a long-standing officer in the face, and then they just look down their shoes and let them go, what do people think are going to think about them as an organization? You know?
Yeah. When I was training to be an ambulance driver, they actually made a very big point about this, that when you're driving the big fancy Band-Aid bus, you know, if you have a near-miss accident with a pedestrian, what's that pedestrian going to think? That that driver is irresponsible, or Brand X ambulances just has crappy drivers?
I'm also just trying to attempt to look at Lindsey Graham flip-flopped like his floppy dick again.
Yeah, I like this. I like this. It took violent insurrection for the GOP to realize Trump was dangerous.
Shock Pikachu face. The other thing, and by the way, they knew this is them. This is Americans like doing this, where it's like that Zach Galifianakis skip, where they're on the phone and they just stop, put their phone to their ass, fart in it, and then continue their conversation, completely oblivious to what they just did, and then complaining about the smell and everything, like it's someone else. But okay, I just wanted to see that update.
I mean, I just can't believe that this is the photo that is really probably going to define 2021.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Basically, and I hate being hyperbolic here, I guess, but just like we're basically starting Civil War II to some degree over something even more stupid than the first one, because at least the first one had like a real stake on it.
You know, at least you know, in some ways, it almost feels, well, you know, I actually will agree with that, because we are essentially fighting a civil war over Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached max stupid.
We're fighting a civil war through internet shitposting programmed in Joe over a washed up tacky celebrity that everyone has like agreement on because of social status.
I do legitimately hope at some point that we find out who Q actually is. I'm fairly certain it's the 8chan founder guy. I mean, there's a lot.
I actually think it's probably like just some low level like LARPers, like it's just a group of people. There's no head. They basically, as one of my friends once said about this idea of like, what if we went back in time and tried to find Jesus, and someone's like, "What, Jesus? No, that's Mikhail's D&D character." You know what I mean?
No. That's You know what that reminds me of is, I don't know if you ever watched Red Dwarf, but there's an episode where they go back in time and they meet a guy named Jesus who isn't actually the right Jesus.
Yeah. I also want to point out real quick for anyone out here, because I seem to be on the front line of that. Hi, Olden guy. I also hope you're doing well. That because Parler is currently trending right now. Just like most things, don't go to Parler for free speech anything, because one, here's a general rule. If privacytools.io, and I'll type that URL in chat.
I'll bring it up.
Okay. If they don't list it, there's probably a good reason why they didn't list it. And never mind that Parler is, if I remember correctly, not open source or anything, but they have a history of being even more restrictive than social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook. And you basically need to dox yourself in order to properly use it, like to an absurd, even like levels that Facebook would even blush.
And they built it on top of WordPress.
Yes, they did, because they always do this. Gab was built on top of WordPress. Now this is built on top of. Can we stop using the WordPress? This is why WP Scan will never die.
No, because WordPress will never die.
Yes, exactly.
Because I just installed Debian 2.1 and it had PHP 3 on the CD.
I will say this, two other things, and the second one I'm kind of debating to say on air, not because it's controversial, just because of like stuff. Fuck it, I'll say both of them.
YOLO!
Yay! Is that one? What's been weird? I have this whole thing that I hate, where it's called "I hate being right," and what I mean by that
isn't that 2020?
That's been forever, man. That's been since I was like 12. And what I hate about with being right is that I'm never like, I'll put it this way. I want to be like, hey, you know what? In 2 months, we're all going to find sexy partners and get $1 million. Like, that's what I want to be right about. I don't want to be right about like how the worst of humanity is going to act and then be even worse. But like one of the things I hate being right about is I kept saying, you know, I'm like, no one on the even the extreme left side that I've encountered want to do this, but you have these like lame, stupid like anos, anarchists in name only, who like talk about like having like true revolution and stuff. And one of the things I bring up is that like honestly, we'd probably cost some lives, but it would honestly be shockingly easy to storm the Capitol. Like, it's the same thing that there was a saying where it's like, do you think I'm afraid of the U.S. government? The U.S. government can't even get my mail on time. Like, again, a lot of the U.S. government, it's not that they are not capable, but it's like a lot of it is they have a facade of being more capable than they actually are. And so I was like, you know, as long like if you had like 200 people who are risked to get shot and possibly killed, you can easily just probably storm the White House. And I, again, hate being right. I don't want that per se.
Well, you know what I you know what I remember in the first minutes of this unfolding was people was comparing to this. So the alt-right stormed the Capitol building. We can't storm Area 51.
Yes. Also, again, like, you know, again, where's the defense budget? As memes have pointed out, there's been like 8 billion like military tanks and stuff when there was a few BML protesters, even if some of them were not part of BLM but independents. Because here's another thing I've been trying to differentiate online, right? Because people are like, but people are burning. First of all, yes, that happened. We're focusing on this shit right now. 2, none of them ever stormed the Capitol. 3, and this is the key, BLM and to some degree, I'm using air quotes, can't see me, Antifa, never claimed that they did any of this. In fact, particularly BLM went out of their way to reject looting and rioting and setting buildings on fire.
Yep.
The organizations who ran this, the different militias and other entities, from their own lips are proudly they did this and they're taking ownership of this, balls out and everything. That's a huge freaking difference right there. Also, what I really freaking hate too, just put out, I know it's probably going to, is I really hate when people are like, oh no, everyone's rioting and looting. This is terrible. Why can't we be civil and democratic? And I'm like, this is proof that Americans have no concept of their own history. What the hell was any of the protests that led up to the American Revolution? Or the or like the class protests, which is why we have Labor Day, or civil rights, or women's rights, or LGBTQ people are disabled. All of these had ginormous, horrific, violent protests with police brutality. So, unfortunately, until votes actually matter, that's the only way the United States anything listens.
Yes.
So this is just all like this is unfortunately these assholes storming the Capitol, as well as anyone who is like burning Wendy's down. This is literally the most American thing you can do. So I don't want to hear about that. This is somehow terrible and un-American, because it's like it's like saying fish and chips are not British, you know?
God, I am still in disbelief.
Oh, I've just been eating popcorn all day. I don't feel proud of myself, but that's been I feel like I'm the only person amused by this because I'm horrified but not shocked. You know?
Pretty much.
I'll tell you this question, because I don't know because we all have different growing up experiences. One of my grow up experiences was a lot of particularly boomers and to some degree Gen Xers, because I'm an older millennial. I don't mind saying I'm going to be 34 this year. I don't give a shit. But it's like, what drives me crazy is everyone's like, you know, you read historical stuff like the Great Depression and World War II and the civil rights, and you're just like, wow, we're just surrounded by fucking video games and Nickelodeon. Like, I boomers tell us, yeah, you're gonna be the boring generation because like you won't see this type of stuff happen. And as soon as all of us graduated high school, and the Iraq War, and then the economy tanked twice, and then Donald Trump, and the drone strike, and Ferguson, and this, and as my mom said, we have a lot more common with our grandparents' generation than we did our parents.
Yeah, pretty much. God knows. I've had some. My mom is essentially a centralist by European politics,
Hmm.
and I've had some. I just am happy she's not a Trumper. My father has made appearances on news shows that shall not be named on this channel, which
My
really bugged me to say the least.
I didn't have a great father, just in general. Nothing political, just in general. And
Yeah,
then when
my
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 mom
my
passed,
extended
yeah,
family is entirely pro
then I didn't
Trumpers.
see him for a huge amount of years. Then my mom passed away recently, and it seemed like he changed, and he did in a lot of areas. And then this year, I'm guessing it's his church. And just to note, this is the African American side of my family. Why to vote for Trump for X, Y, and X reasons, and I have not spoken to him. It's like I'm basically, yep, my mom was right. Why didn't
Hmm.
I not listen to my mom? uh, that's my whole thing. Is just like my problem is, what political party I hate. I can't stand stupid. This is a problem because that's the majority party of humanity everywhere, especially in the United States. We're proud of it. That's our flag.
Hmm.
So that's been the whole thing. You can speak for a minute. I'm just gonna check my food again because it's probably done. I'll be right back.
I'm just looking at this because I've been looking at QAnon's response, and this guy, as ridiculous as this looks, apparently he's a giant shaman in the QAnon movement. I mean, just look at this. I mean, there's been more and more photos kind of leaking out from the protests. And this is considered a major influence in QAnon. He is basically preaches Q, all the things that the Proud Boys advocate as they storm the Capitol building. All wearing MAGA hats.
By the way, welcome to the beginning of the government in exile.
Yeah, you know, look at this. QAnon motivated and led the charge for this dark day, and then you have the same guy. I forget what this desk is. Is that the pro Templar desk of the Senate?
I'm not sure because I don't know if I have a lag or whatever.
The one right at the center of the room, I think where Pelosi or Moscow Mitch would sit.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
also, what the hell is these cosplays?
no, this guy right here is literally, he's called the QAnon Shannon. I've seen him at quite a few other ones, but basically, it's a real showing what the alt-right has become, because 1 in 5 voters, especially those of Republican, actually approve this, of storming the U.S. Capitol building. I mean, I'm having trouble thinking about it. I mean, we keep looking at it, and hold on. It keeps going into more and more details, and I'm just waiting to see what other photos come about this. And the media isn't even talking about that someone, they're putting emphasis on the fact that someone died in the Capitol building.
Yeah, and also another thing too, frickin' computer stuff being compromised. They're gonna have to wipe that entire thing, and if they don't, oh boy.
Yeah, actually, Hack for Pancakes has been talking about that, and it's starting to. I think the shock is wearing off, and InfoSec Twitter is talking about it. But
yeah.
I mean, the honest fact of the matter is, so when you deal with classified information in the United States, there's some very stringent safeguards. They have an entire thing. This would be a great G.I. Jack segment, because I believe he could talk about things like SCIFs and such. Since he had security clearance, but the existence of SCIFs is not actually. It's essentially what's called secured compartment information facility, where some very private things are, and essentially the U.S. Capitol building, and most of it's a giant SCIF. So
I also know real quick that we make fun, which we should, because it is stupid, about like the dress style of this stuff, but to also note there's been a great dissection of all the symbolism being used, and it's yet again more appropriation of Nordic symbolry for white supremacy.
Yeah, well, at some point, and I don't know when this was, they basically took off all veil of being anything but white supremacy. I mean, even when you talk about QAnon these days, they very rarely talk about child pedophilia, which is, kind of like how they got their start.
Well, it's that all slippery slope thing where, bad clock is right twice a day. It's actually the same problem with the Sesta Fossa stuff where it's like, yes, we should be thinking of the children, but this is what you're crafting here has nothing to do with that. You're here to just like push more control. Like literally, like we already have laws that exist to prevent like child trafficking and pornography and stuff that are supposed to be enforced, and none of the bill you're pushing here actually.
Oh, I love this. I actually love this. Apparently, I've seen this account before, Spicy Cuban 17. They're a big QAnon thing. They're now claiming that Antiva was the one that stormed the Capitol building.
Oh yeah, actually one of the worst things was watching QAnon accounts try to claim that their Buffalo Bill idiot was they were trying to say, hey, he was at a BML thing earlier, and here he's now.
Oh man, tweets that have aged badly. I'll wait for the lag to catch up because I really want to hear your response to this.
Yeah, no, just could you post it in the chat or whatever?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat. Let me put it in the chat. I want you to see this because I want to hear the side pocket reaction to this.
Okay, doke. In the Discord or
I put it in Discord.
Okay. Let's see. 4 years, lost the White House, lost the White House today. 13 Republicans in the United States and 140 House will attempt to thwart democracy if we nominate Trump. Yeah, no, that's been going around. No, I saw that like hours ago. That was again, the internet. Here's the key. The internet never forgets. So the manipulation tactic is, but can you be apathetic about the internet? So in a world where we can't look away for information, the idea is to attack the information itself, not the access to it. Because they already lost the war with the access to it. So what they're kind of almost winning at is our pre-built reactions to it. Basically, a lot of the internet or the public internet has become basic cable, which was a huge concern back in the day that's what happened. Funny enough, there's actually a good Black Hat USA talk by someone I really admire their research to. She was the keynote, and that's what they talked about.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just catching up on all this. I don't think until tomorrow when I finally get up, it's going to sink in that this has just happened.
I think a lot of people are going to hope to wake up tomorrow and that we still have a country,
Well, so at the moment, in an unusual show of Twitter actually doing, not Twitter doing something, of the U.S. Congress actually doing something, they decided to continue counting the electoral votes, and they'll probably be going all night, even over the objection.
Yep, they came back to that's where a lot of the original people who were going to protest against this flipped like cowards.
Well, I think they realize that their balls are on the line just as much as the rest of ours.
Oh, this is rich. I've seen this. Fox News is saying that Antifa infiltrates Trump supporters, instigated, and it got, quote, a little out of hand, end quote, and that the problem is that Facebook, Google, and Twitter are censoring real news.
I feel incredibly dirty to do this, but I'm going to pull up Fox News on stream.
Because the whole thing about that, too, is, I love how, what is it? We're already 2020 and old news.
21. 21.
Yep. Well, it feels still like it's 2020 with all of this. And that old news still wants to attack new old media still wants to attack new media like it's somehow still has clout or whatever.
Wow, holy crap. For Fox News, this is surprisingly unbiased.
Or just more tame from what I've seen.
No. I mean, this is actually I have scrolled through I just looked through the headlines and I didn't see a flat out lie like I usually expect from Fox News. Because right now it says, right here, Trump legacy in tatters, and the mob did not win.
I think there might be a difference also too between the website and the streams because
that could easily be it.
Yeah,
but I'm not. Let's be honest. I already feel like I am putting. I feel like I'm putting a visual J++ CD through my computer by pulling up Fox News.
Well, that and also that, I don't know about playing 2 seconds of something for Fox News will get us DMC'd out the ass. Someone just posted here, which we just shared. There was a bigger police presence at the Capitol to stop Jane Fonda from sitting about climate change.
Yeah. I mostly keep CNN up because while I don't think CNN is particularly great, they're the big of those that have a large TV presence, they're the least objectable. So
also to note too, from all the rumors coming up, like legit rumors coming about AIDS, I know this is shocking news. Trump apparently has truly lost it. That all he's been doing is no one can talk to him, not even his family, and he's just watching all of this, like absorbing it, like the way like you zone out when you watch like video games or something.
Well, the man was becoming increasingly unhinged throughout the pandemic. I want to say losing the election was a proverbial straw.
I think it's more or less that he was becoming unhinged, and more of that. And it wasn't even that like people were more seeing what he's actually like, because to me he wasn't trying to hide it. It's more of that his usefulness as a useful idiot evaporated, and then realized, congratulations, you played yourself. And that's what's been going on for the past 4 years.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I mean, and God knows that I am fully expecting the New York DA to...
I will say, Serene Master, two things about Fox News. One is that the general news part of Fox, like just news, not political news, is usually as mundane as a lot of the other orgs. Their political stuff is in entertainment theater, just like most of the political stuff, except they have this odd thing that fair and balanced means you go in the exact opposite direction, which is terrible. The other thing that we also have to remind ourselves is that Fox News is currently basically to some degree, a civil war right now, because all of their viewers are now going to OAN and Newsmax because their news part is usually correct. That means they were mostly accurate about the actual election.
Yes, no, I kind of enjoy watching that, as horrifying as it is. That
go to Our Conservative. They're basically on fire right now.
Do you really want? Okay,
it's up to you. I'm just letting you know that if you really want to see like what alternate universe did I end up in?
Our Conservative.
Right, yeah.
Oh, on Reddit.
Yep. That's what the R for. It's always reddit.com/r.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying to our listeners, for people not being familiar, that if you hear r/something, that means it's on Reddit.
Conserve.
I'm also to note, I'm now compelled to make another Cyberpunk 2077 parody trailer.
No. Yeah. Cyberpunk 2077 was the last bad thing of 2020. Let's leave it there.
No, I keep trying to, like, it still confuses me that even back then when they got the license of, like, that literally, I'll put it this way, one of the earliest interviews about this game, right, was that the reason why they moved it to 2077 is they believe that by the time 2020 would come out, which they thought the game would have already came out 2 years before then, that somehow like the cyberpunk world would be not believable. And so there's like a running joke of like, so why did they move it out 60 years? With all the people with artificial limbs and the buildings on fire and the glitches and riots and everything. Like,
okay,
why did
I can't read the comments because I'm going to get stupider by doing so.
No, that's perfectly fine. Oh my god, this is the best tweet. Hold on, I'll send this to you. I'm going to post this in chat. There's been rare memes, but the certain memes are just al dente.
Discord or
on our stream chat.
There it is.
Especially as a lock person, that's just, oh man, perfect lock.
Oh God! Do you realize that only those of a certain age would even recognize what that is?
Yes.
The thing is that, an honest truth here, do you know how easy it is to bypass one of those?
Oh, yes. No, we've been trying to get our hands on one of those to do an entire Master of Unlocking about it.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait. eBay.
No, we've been looking. That's Cell's gig. He's been... Anytime you see weird clicking sounds, that's him trying to do bids.
We can get one for $20.
It's up to you. I'll owe you back.
Well, wait, no, sorry. This appears to be a knockoff club. But holy crap, look at that photo.
I know.
That is so nice. Here, I'll send the photo because of stream lag.
No,
But that's a period correct car.
Yep.
Check if this part fits your vehicle. You know what? I need to go when the pandemic is over. I need to go rent a Tesla just so I can get a photo of a club in one.
So, just for an update for our viewers, right now there are still continued to be like clashes between police and the protesters. So naturally, they're arresting all the press people, whether they're right leaning or left leaning, right now in DC.
Oh yeah, we could buy one for 25 official The Club for $25 plus $8 shipping. God, I almost am tempted to do that because God knows we could do some really spicy things with just imagine when the pandemic ends and we can return to subculture if we walk in with The Club.
That's what I'm hoping for the middle of the year. I'm honestly, as a side tangent, I'm hoping, cousin to dark tangent, by the way. I'm hoping for, I know, terrible joke. I'm hoping that we actually get to do what Penny Arcade is hoping for this year and get to go back to PAX East in June.
God, yeah, what amazes me is that I am a YouTuber. I actually made an entire video about us at.
I still have to edit the stuff in. I plan on finally doing that later this week.
Hold on. So I actually made an entire video of us at PAX East, and this is what I was doing. I was biking cross country when but I'm actually going to pull this up. This was in 2020.
Yeah, I just also want to point out, I just saw H Bomber Guy's tweet who says, I get distracted by Hades for 5 minutes, now poop is happening, great.
Yeah. And look, I've got pre-recorded side pocket here right before Cell goes after the cookies.
That's been really awesome.
Oh yes, that was fun.
Charity, I remember them back when I had to take a hike.
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk over this or not, but
yeah, no, it's fine. But I'll post the link in chat. This is on my second YouTube channel. But this was 2020, right before the world ended.
Yep. Back when you could like rub your butts on each other and nothing truly bad would happen besides consent.
And just as you say that, I pull up a picture of you eating a cookie.
Yes.
And then I mean hell, we got chased off screen by by lawyers.
Yeah, which I think is what's going to happen if we go back in June, because I'm going to say this probably on air for the first time. My horror, I know we're getting horribly sidetracked, but my horror was, remember when we were done with that and we were like, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll submit a sequel to next year and we'll just include all the stuff that we couldn't include because we were only an hour long, because we were literally like we were doing like multiple decades.
Let me give the impression of what happened here. So Side Pocket had been to. I know we've gone off topic, but frankly, I think we need to de-stress because we've been talking about this for three frackin' hours.
Just a little bit, yep.
So, Side Pocket approaches me and Cell on, hey, do you want to give a talk at PAX? It's like, do I have a choice? And the answer is no.
No.
So we meet together a few times, and let's just say that DEF CON 201 planning sessions are not what I call the most productive things known to mankind.
At least that one.
You know, they're very interesting, but they're not that useful. So we only have about half a slide deck and a Pokemon ROM hack. I kid you not. This is what we went to PAX East with. And I am kind of shitting a brick here. And I'm also thinking we're talking about, you know, video game cheaters at what is essentially a trade show. No offense to PAX East, but that is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, so maybe we'll get a relatively small room. And PAX actually, I think we can say this, is that PAX had some restrictions they put on us because of the content.
I will also say that unfortunately, especially if it's physical this year, PAX East is probably going to turn from a trade show to a MagFest refugee camp.
Oh, don't let. So anyway, I think we should give the PAX East story because I don't think we never actually had a chance to talk about it. Our last real life meeting was that February. We didn't have one in March.
Right. Yeah,
So
we've
I
been
don't
on
think,
virtual
and we
episodes.
didn't start doing Virtual 201 until May, because mine was the first show we did under Virtual 201 camp.
Well, here's what happened. We did 2 live streams, March and April. May is when we started doing other programming in addition to the.
Yes, no, you're right. But we never actually we never actually had the follow. Holy, we just hit our funding goal. We have it. Someone just donated $135.
Someone, I was gonna wait till you noticed that because we're not fundraising anymore. But thank you.
No, that's just. Did that just happen?
Yeah, that just happened. That's not a glitch.
And we haven't even been. I forgot to turn the banner off.
Yeah, we weren't even trying. So thank you. By the way, if you're curious about this, Child's Play is where we get to be Hacker Santa. And even though it's past like Christmas and stuff, it's still all worth it. So I'm now officially happy for this year. So thank you, Anani Mouse from Ananiland for that. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. Talk about things I was not expecting.
At least one good thing came out of this. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'll take that. So anyway, let's since we never actually got to talk about PAX East, and I honestly just need to unwind before we call it.
Sure.
We've basically got half a slide deck because Ciricel did something, I did something, and Side Pockets said something, and we could never get all three of us in the room at the same time to actually review.
I didn't do anything.
Well, no, so I'm expecting that we're going to have a relatively small room. I don't know what Ciricel is expecting.
Hell no.
And Side Pocket is here, and PAX is like, man, we really want to have you as a talk because we would love to have a technical talk, but certain sponsors that I will remain nameless are having concerns about your talk. Yeah, okay. I wasn't going to say it, but yes. So it was a company that was a no-show at PAX. So the compromise was that, yes, we'll just not stream your talk. So we're sitting there, and the talk ahead of us ends a little late. So we get in there. Cookie Brigade is there, and we have recruited them to chase us off stream at the end. And we have Don't Copy Our Floppy playing on a loop as people pour in. And I swear to God, I don't know who had a more deer in headlights look, because Side Pocket and I have given talks at major conferences. I've talked at Hope and Internet Freedom Festival. I know Side Pocket's talked a lot more. I don't think Ciricel. I know Ciricel talked at MagFest, but it wasn't a big talk. So they're
more like workshops. I don't think he's talked to like a ginormous C yet. Although I'd have to ask him, so I'm not going to speak for him. But
yeah, to my knowledge, I think he's talked at MagFest, but it may have all been workshops. So Ciricel is kind of going. I'm kind of going, holy, and it's taking, because of the crowd control from the enforcers, it took so long. It took 20. We played Don't Copy That Floppy twice on a loop, and that's a 10-minute long video.
Yes.
So the enforcers say, okay, we're going to give you 20 extra minutes because obviously you have a full house.
Yeah.
And also, we are literally bullshitting our way through a talk that we had never rehearsed.
The best part, yeah. Well, we weren't bullshitting. We knew what we were doing.
We weren't bullshitting, but we were ad-libbing.
Yeah, we're ad-libbing. But no, the part that you're leaving out here which was my favorite part, was I've been to PAX East before. It was a long time. It was 5 years, but I used to regularly go. And it's amazing how much hasn't changed in a good way. This is their first time, and so like N-Commander in particular is worried about, like, Ciricel just wanted this to all be over with. Like, he just wanted to do it and have a good time.
It didn't start on a particularly great note for me or Ciricel, because me and Ciricel got up at crack of dawn early to leave on the bus, and we had to wait for Side Pocket to arrive because of the way the rousing. So Side Pocket's bus is late, and I don't know if anyone in chat has been to Boston, and in particular the Boston bus station, because it's a really good place to die in Boston. It's like going it's like going into electrical in Among Us.
Boston, a good place to die.
So me and Ciricel are just kind of sitting there, and there's like a half-naked guy streaking through the room. He's going to the McDonald's. I am like, okay, it's just Boston at 2 a.m. because Side Pocket's bus is 2 a.m. And this is one of the coldest winters we ever had. It was like, what, -10? So
It was pretty cold, yeah.
Yeah. So my nuts are literally freezing off, and I am sharing a room with 3 other guys. I have a sleep disorder, and one is snoring like a muffler.
Yep.
And so this was the PAX East experience, and this is all in the shadow of COVID.
So another thing I also want to bring up is, so this, if I remember correctly, I think this was either your first major like game convention.
Yes. No, I had been to other gaming conventions, but none on the scale of PAX.
Yeah. And this was Ciricell's first time in Boston.
Oh God. Oh God. Yeah, I forgot about that. It was his first time in Boston.
Yes. Let me talk about the thing. So let's get back to where I was going to with this. So the best part is I've been to PAX East before, and neither of them have, even though Ciricell has familiarity with like gaming conventions.
Yeah.
Like
and both me and Side Pocket lived in Boston.
Yep. And the cash is not for the club. That was just the donation for the charity thing. That's what I thought you asked. If you want to donate directly to NCOMMANDER, that's something you and Olden, an NCOMMANDER and Olden guy would have to work that out, probably using like carrier pigeons and stuff.
I'll drop a link to my Discord and channel, and we can discuss it later. So keep going.
So let me finish this up. So the best part is like the entire time NCOMMANDER is like, oh God, we're only gonna have like 8 people at our panel. I'm like, okay, so here's how the way PAX East is. Even though PAX East is not known for its panels, actually because of that, even because as we saw throughout the day, there were like panels that didn't like fill up the room, but they still had like a respectable amount of people. Like even the most dead panel has like 200 people in it.
Yep.
So
well, what were we up against? But we were up against. No, it was because we were up against Beta 64.
Yeah, that was my worry. And then also to find out later that Beta 64 was mad like we were because he wanted to attend our panel and
we wanted to attend his.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and so that was that whole thing, and we have a picture of it where Phil. We also talked about this on New Year's, by the way, on our New Year's stream. And so like afterwards, you know, and first of all, I'm like, thank God these two hopefully will not kill me later on. Second of all, is that I was like, okay, so we're probably going to submit this again, and we'll prepare better. But the idea originally was like, okay, we're just going to do the stuff that we weren't able to do, like, because we cut out a shit ton of stuff because. And the way we were thinking about this, because Ciricell was agreeing with this and saying, like, we were covering decades worth of hacks. So we're like, what hacks could possibly happen in 2021? Like, it's to the point where I've agreed with Ciricell that whether it's in person or online, but it's even funnier in person, if we actually open up explaining that, and as we're saying, what could possibly happen 20, and then we have like a master list in like 0.6 font of every single leak and hack that happened.
Yes.
Well, in 2020, and just be like, holy fuck, you know.
Well, let me give to the finale of what happened afterwards. So we actually ended up spending a bunch of time with the Beta 64 guys, you know, just to shoot the shit. So we're going to part ways because I was actually flying to Jacksonville. I was going to bike across the country. Because this was right before, you know, I had bad timing syndrome here, real bad, because who knew that we were still going to be in March 2020 in January 2021.
Game Master, I just want to let out, we hear you there. All of us feel really stressed right now. That's not to devalue your own stress, but just let you know that you aren't alone, and that you can either
Side Pocket, the bar moved again.
Yeah, no, someone just did something. I don't know how much, though.
No, we're at $436.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Someone matched.
Why is this happening now?
Why is this happening now on the stream that we're not charity raising?
Well, my hilarious part about this is that I guess that's how bad the lag is for the restream. All the fundraising we were doing all month lagged into today, so that's great. Also, maybe people are figuring the world's ending, so you might as well.
that freaking progress bar has been stuck since November, and of all the streams, that it not only reaches its goal, it goes past the goal and into the bleachers. Is on the emergency stream where we talk about the U.S. presidency The U.S. Capitol disaster, and I am not plugging.
NCOMMANDER exe has just crashed. Can you try turning your NCOMMANDER on and off again? I also want to mention, Game Master, to kind of sum up your question, because I know it's a recurring question, so I want to say, yes, we can save net neutrality, but one, it has to have a lot of humans putting their bodies, minds, and souls on gears and wheels all over the world, not just the United States. So that's
kind of a larger thing. When it comes to things like net neutrality and the internet, because Jack and I were talking about this earlier, the fact of the matter is that when things get really bad, because we had a really bad scare a few years ago with SOPA, and we basically blacked out the internet, and I've never seen legislation die that fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wish we could do that with more things. But when we see if 230 is really going to be looks at risk of being revoked, like it actually reaches the Congress floor, I guarantee you will see an internet blackout that made the SOPA protests look like a freaking matchstick.
I think you're going to see people. I'll put it this way, right? Before even this invasion happened, there's been a huge thing going around. And it sucks because this is not that it's ineffective. I mean that it's going to damage a lot of other people, but essentially, people were so mad about who, including Mitch McConnell, that the Kentuckians voted in, that there's been for a couple of days a national active boycott against things that are from Kentucky. To the point where before this, I was legit worried that we would start seeing essentially terrorist attacks, not just because I already saw this. I said Mitch's place is going to get invaded, and just in general in Kentucky, riots and terrorist attacks are going to happen. And
it would be the perfect picture for 2021 if KFC went out of business because of this.
Oh, you know what's the crazy part? KFC's not only got affected, but that made people find out that Taco Bell's now mainly located in Kentucky. Yeah.
Someone stop the planet. I want to get off.
Blackout the internet again is similar to what Loft said, which is we have to negotiate between people who own. Here's the crazy part. Before it used to be you'd have to disable certain nodes, which you could still do, and obviously I'm not going to say what they are, and it's also beyond my scope. But the crazy part about the original blackout, that wasn't a bunch of hackers took internet loads offline. Basically, a bunch of web portals decided to essentially shut down for the day. So, for example, because I was involved on this end of this, and I convinced the staff to do this, is Wikipedia just shut down for 24 hours voluntarily.
Yeah. Well, they backed off from that you had to click out of the screen every time.
Yeah. That would honestly, I would see that as being a bit more difficult now to some degree, not only because now things are more decentralized. It's not that Wikipedia wouldn't do that again, but it's more of when you think of the internet, essentially everything, we're now back to basic cable where instead of channel 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, it's Twitter, Facebook, Parler.
Yeah, but the thing is that all those organizations have something major to lose if 230 goes down the tubes.
Yes, 230. But again, I feel like it's going to be a death by 1,000 cuts. The thing we need to watch out for, which is why I'm looking at things like Sesta Foster Earn It and now SIPA, is that it's not going to be, as I said in The Dark Knight, the knife, the long sword. It's going to be the knife with the poison. It's going to be that old line from World War II where, I didn't defend these people. I did defend these people. And by the time it came to me, there was no one else to help me, And that's the part, basically feature creep up with policies is what I'm worried about, which is how you get legislation in. Why are we still being retweeted? This is probably why people are donated. I know DEF CON retweeted us, but this is just getting hilarious.
So what always tweaks me is that it seems that the day after a HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDER stream, I get retweeted 30 times.
Oh yeah, no, that happens. Yeah, that happens. It's just a thing. It's people just wake up from different time zones.
One of these days, I like that you use the Among Us image.
Yeah, I didn't. Unfortunately, I wanted to use that everywhere else. I couldn't. I just found a nice image where I shit you not. It was all the manga people on the White House with bonfires. There was just giant fires emerging. But for Among Us, yeah, that's why, like I said, I titled today's thing. So I was just emergency meeting,
What the crap?
What happened now? Tell me what you see.
Rudy Giuliani meant... Hold on, I'm going to read the whole thing.
Oh,
Rudy,
is this thing?
That's this thing. Rudy Giuliani called Senator Tommy Tuberville, I don't know what state he's from, to object to 10 states' electoral votes to buy Team Trump more time, but he left a voicemail on the wrong senator's phone. We have the audio.
Yep, Grandpa. I don't know if you want to play the audio. It's up to you. Honestly, and this is not me, I'm not advocating for violence or anything, right? I'm honestly expecting a Trump senator to attack another senator with a cane to make this full circle.
Yeah, I'm actually going to play I am going to play the audio of this. So hold on.
Perfect. I'll chill out. That will allow me to actually refill this drink here. And again, as far as you want to go for, that's fine. Just let me know, and we'll.
No, I'm feeling energetic and something. I'm just okay. I'm going. I'll wait. Let's play this. I'm going to play the whole thing for the chat.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Senator Tuberville, or I should say Coach Tuberville, this is Rudy Giuliani, president's lawyer. I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information to you. And I know they're reconvening at 8 tonight. But the only strategy we can follow is to object to numerous states and raise issues so that we get ourselves into tomorrow, ideally until the end of tomorrow. I know McConnell is doing everything he can to rush it, which is kind of a kick in the head, because it's one thing to oppose us, it's another thing not to give us a fair opportunity to contest it. He wants to try to get it down to only 3 states that we contest. Well, there are 10 states that we contest, not 3. So if you could object to every state, and along with a congressman get a hearing for every state, I know we would delay you a lot, but it would give us the opportunity to get the legislators who are very, very close to pulling their votes, particularly after what McConnell did today. It angered them because they have written letters asking that you guys adjourn and send them back the questionable ones, and they'll fix them up. So this phone number I'm available on all night, and it would be an honor to talk to you. Thank you.
I don't know what to say. I mean, that's the 2020 version of the frackin' smoking gun tape. For those who don't know their Watergate history, the smoking gun tape was basically the one that forced Nixon to resolve. I mean, he left it on a voicemail. I know. I really shouldn't be surprised right here. I mean, just WTF, mate. I mean, oh, look, Parler's trending with 20,000 tweets. Why am I not surprised? Why am I not effing surprised? But, I mean, you're basically seeing Giuliani and the rest of Team Trump using a national crisis to attack the basic underpinning of democracy, to just cause what we conned in the 90s as fear, uncanny, and doubt. It was what Microsoft did to sink many things, and we're just basically seeing it applied to the political field.
If you hear horrible slurping sounds, that's me eating a giant pork chop.
I heard something else besides pork chop at first.
Okay, no comments. Oh, kitten.
I actually wonder if Pence is going to pull the 25th Amendment before this time tomorrow. Because this is the first time it really is being talked about in mainstream circles.
At this point, anything's possible, Rainbow Hands.
Well, yes, Trump could decide to turn over a new leaf and confess to all his crimes.
I love Ian Coldwater's post.
I just love the deafening silence after I said that.
Oh, okay, I'm dumb. No offense, I wasn't paying attention. Something against you. I legit wasn't paying attention. I'm sorry.
Flight attendant unions want pro-Trump riders banned from flights home from D.C. over safety concerns.
Oh, jeez. Okay, we just retweeted this, but I'm sending this one in chat so you can see this.
Yeah. Also, we've established that walls don't work.
Oh yeah, no, that's my other favorite meme, that the alt-right proved that walls don't work. But yeah, I just posted it in the stream chat because I want to see your reaction, see and hear your reaction on this on stream.
He's not wrong.
You just see the replies, or it's just like nuke from orbit and stuff.
So so you know what they need is now I need a Photoshop picture of someone holding like some incriminating Trump evidence in front of DC. Just like the famous volume key. What was that? The FKB DC key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hold on. XP activation key. What was it? FD famous one picture. Here it is. This is the one I'm thinking of. Is
so we're sharing this as infosec #infosec in a nutshell. After one of the greatest security failures in American history, the House of Representatives give the Capitol Police a standing ovation.
Yeah. So just to sum up, I now need a 2021 version of this photo, assuming this is the right photo. Oh, God. Why is the Internet Archive? There we go. Remember this?
Not seeing it. Did you post it?
Oh, yeah. I'll post it in Discord because lag is real.
Okay. There we go. Just waiting.
Yeah, I need a version of this photo for 2021. Yeah, because I remember this photo.
I think it'd have to be a download card now, wouldn't it?
No, it's the Capitol Hill. I would still expect a 5 1/4 floppy disk.
Or like a QR code or something.
Yeah, I don't really want to scan a QR code by the U.S. government.
I know. I'm just saying in terms of like putting it there, we could actually customize it. Let's see.
Yeah, I love the idea. You know, I do legitimately wonder what is going to get posted from the seized. You know, what amazes me is there's been no arrests as far as I know.
There's only been 13.
Oh, there has been 13?
Yes, 13 arrests out of like a lot of people, more than when BML was there in full force. Yeah.
The only thing I can say is that the actual Capitol building has its own police jurisdiction. It's under the guise of the U.S. Capitol Guard, which is basically a ceremonial post that probably hasn't done jack shit in 2 centuries. And now they have to do actual police work.
Why haven't you done anything in 2 centuries?
Because it's entirely ceremonial.
No, I'm asking Jack. You said jack shit hasn't done anything in 2 centuries.
No. I'm talking about the U.S. Capitol Police Guard.
Okay, the other. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No. Jack actually does shit.
Well, no comment on that.
I didn't say it was useful, but he does do shit.
No, he definitely shits.
Yes, I've been to the 201 crapper. Oh, Antifa and BLM is trending again. Apparently, Twitter took it off its block list.
That's because as Eyeball wrote, oh my God, it's like they're literally giving their brains and senses away. And
facial recognition firm X-Ray Vision claims Antifa infiltrated Trump protesters who stormed Capitol.
Oh God, they know that they can't. That AI stuff like that has like literally looked at cats and think they're dogs.
Wait. Oh, that's beautiful. It literally, holy. I'm gonna have to take a screenshot of this and send it to you because I think you need to see this stupid.
I think why it trended is because right here it says Matt Pultz.
And Commander just accidentally almost. I don't think. No, okay. I may have just doxed myself because I just ended up.
Did you dox yourself again?
No, I should be okay. The only thing that showed up was the Keybase conversation I have with you.
Okay.
Because
Well,
the problem is I took a full screen screenshot, and Gnome decided to make a photo of both my monitors.
That sounds like Gnome.
our Gnome screenshot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No. At some point we will get the missing episode of HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDER up.
Yeah, no, I'm working on that because I think there's literally like 7 places where you dox yourself, and I have to like watch the whole thing and mark them. But no,
Yeah. Well, okay, let's put it like this. IPv6 has some downsides.
Let me
God,
say...
no. This is not the year for this.
Wait, hold on a second.
Bird flu outbreak reported in India.
Yay. Oh, God, they're going to fuse with the UK strain, aren't they?
No, this is not the year. This is not the freaking year for this.
Remember, Trump's out on the 20th. No, 2020 is over, but not the momentum. But no, it's a Matt Getz here really said it was Antifa, not Trump terrorists that stormed the Capitol and got applause from Republicans. I shit you not. That's probably one of the reasons why that's trending. My whole thing is like, I just saw your tweet up on here is like, what? There's no source, and where the fuck is this picture from?
Well, that's the thing is that's the same photo of Mr. Cosplay. Right there to the right. But you know what amazes me is that in the year of 2021 that you can storm the US Capitol building and post about it on social media at the same time.
The other thing about that image of the supposed facial recognition, right, is that one, I didn't really see any like actual like markers that I usually see facial recognition. But the other thing is, again, they tried to claim that Bullhorn guy was Antifa, but he's been a Proud Boy type supporter. He was at the BML protest, but he was there in support of the Proud Boys and the police, not because of this. So again, they're just taking random pictures and comparing them. So even if these people were at BML thing, they're probably not Antifa, just like the way that Bull guy is. We need to, again, wait for actual sources, people who know what they're doing to come up here. Come on, people. This is how the disinformation spreads easy. Social engineering tactics like toddler edition.
You know, it's almost like if we could remove the retweet button off Twitter.
No, because here's my thing: is that I'm not one of those people who is like, oh, we should ban all this stuff. My problem is this is a society.
No, I'm just saying remove the retweet button.
I just want response. Well, that would cut out most of our stuff, but still, it's like I just want. Like my problem again is that just. You can have an internet or a society that's freedom of speech. The problem is that when people ask for freedom of speech, it's not speech they're trying to have freedom from. They're trying to have freedom of consequence. Mm-hmm. That's the core issue there. That's the dog whistle. In the exact same way, I think Jack brought this up earlier, but I just want to give my take on it, and hopefully it doesn't sound too similar. One of the reasons why I hate when like tech people are, oh boy, it's just like he quit manga. Oh dear, because that's how severe the lag is. I want to follow that bit.
No. Wow, that's like a good 30 seconds in the past.
Yeah,
my God, God, latency.
Hold on, and Tony C. Walker. Yep,
holy shit.
What?
This sentence. We only want peaceful people involved in the MAGA movement.
Yeah, no, they're basically going through all the same hell that they tried to put BML through, except it's not working because 2 completely different groups with different ideologies and methods. Sipping Lipton tea as Kermit right now.
Yeah. So the lesson foreign terrorists have learned is if you want to get into the Capitol to commit terrorist acts, all you have to do is be white, wear a MAGA hat, and carry a Trump 2020 flag.
Pretty much. Hey, I get to tell this story again. And by the way, let's get back to my original point here. So
we had a point?
Because my take on this was what I was saying earlier, before we had to be interrupted with that news, is that I hate when tech people, especially the hack community, are like, I can't think on all these politics and stuff. Can't we just talk about code? And never mind all that other stuff that can't separate the two and shit like that. But what I've learned over the years is that that's literally a dog whistle. And what that means is that person has really, really horrific, shitty, not just political ideas, but social ideas. Like literally 11 times out of 10, every time I've had someone who does not want to talk about, quote, politics in any tech thing, I don't care if they're left or right or anything, they're always the people who go, well, I believe that the age of consent should be limited down to 8. And shit like that. Where they're like, you know what? we shouldn't have executed Hitler. We should have had him try again. Like really bad.
Well, we didn't.
idea.
Wait. Hold on. In that regard, the Russians did want to. He committed suicide.
I know. No, as I said, as we always say, the best that Hitler did one good thing in his life. He took out Hitler. So,
well, you're not.
Yeah,
you're not. That would be technically the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck it. That is going. I gotta make a meme. I'm sorry. Hold on.
We just brought up an anime thing.
No. I'm about to make. Stand back. I'm about to commit science.
Oh God. Oh boy. Glue some chess pieces down. We're going over the hump.
Oh, okay. I see that Jack is. Holy crap! Jack is doing moderator duty.
I've been watching.
Yeah, I had it all. I was tabbed out because God, this will be probably the first stream in a few months I've actually gone all the way to midnight. And we're not talking about tech. I mean, I've got here. I did actually figure out what I was going to do. I've got a 32 megabyte compact flash card right here.
I was going to bring that up, that for the first time being ever, in terms of you, not me, I've been there twice, in the political section of Twitch. You're doing extremely well.
Well, I'm just waiting tomorrow when I wake up and my Discord is overrun with MAGAs.
Oh, that we've already been there. For DC 201. No, but it's crazy because we have a couple of things going for you tonight. First of all, Bosch stopped streaming, who I love him. I want to eventually get him on to a DC 201 thing. He's a big political commentator.
I mean, normally, these are the numbers my streams normally get, but I have people in the retro tech community that when I post, they retweet and it goes. The only place I posted this was in the dissect Discord, which is my own personal one.
I just uploaded it to everything normal. I didn't even go to Reddit. The other thing that I think was big that I probably did was so they made a mistake and they initially said that Off the Hook was on tonight, but then it turned out because they were already set to preemptive 2 weeks ago, they were actually off tonight, ironically. So I made sure to go in that thread and let people know, hey, if you want to know a hacker's take about like what's going on right now, we are doing this show at 8. So
yeah, that wins. So apparently, actually, I do realize that there are a lot of names tonight that are not normally here. So for those who don't know, HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDER does not normally deal with debugging the U.S. political system. Instead, I usually dig up the dead. And when I say dead, I mean old. Here, this will probably cause a lot of pain and horror in some people's. This is Myth 2 by a demo from Loki Games.
Ow. I will mention here, by the way, just sort of spiel, for all the new people who are in here. First of all, thank you all for donating, especially Olden Guy who matched Mr. Ananiland. That's wow. But we also want to mention, because I'm actually going to hang up my voice call and I'm going to let you do the retro stuff and then just let me know.
After you hang up, we're going to wind it down.
Wind down and then just let me know and just account that like 5 minutes in advance, and there's going to be like a 30-second lag. But I just want to let everyone know that if you do like what you see so far, tomorrow, I believe, G.I. Jack will be streaming his show, Archvile Linux Perspective. And I have Crypto Barons this Saturday, and our live stream meeting, which we should have details for this weekend, will be on January 15th, probably at 6 p.m., but we'll announce that later. Anyhow, if you want to get notifications for all of those different things, make sure you click that bell, hit like, share, and subscribe on Twitch, DLive, YouTube, and technically Facebook, even though we're only like half and half in that. And for all you people who are actually, which I forgot to post, and I'm probably going to post in a moment, who are watching YouTube through Tor, because there's a method to do so, you are awesome. Thank you for all of you for tuning in. Same thing, by the way, if you want to send in bits, super chats, or lemons on your respective streams. NCOMMANDER, because of his setup, won't be able to do alerts for them, but I do try to read those out when I can, like when people.
We could do the. I got the browser plugin working. That's how I'm doing the banner. I just have to. Need the credentials. I told you I have that.
No. After this stream, it's not even the credentials. I'll just send you the URLs, and I might show you later on how I actually stack mine. So,
no, I know how the stack. Side pocket. I used to do this professionally.
I know. I'm just being a stupid mother hen. So yeah, I'm gonna thank you for having me on. I'm gonna go and film my face and do my duty stuff.
All we need is a Squirtle and a Searcell, and we would have a
I feel
full
like
blackjack.
this is making up for the fact that we couldn't have you or him on New Year's. Because the New Year's stuff was funny and went really well. But yeah, this is like New Year's Part 2, Electric Boogaloo, really sad edition, because New Year's was actually hopeful. So
why was it hopeful?
Because we're going into a new year where we're just happy that 2020 was over and we actually had a good time.
Well, I'm sorry. If this is how 2020 gave us 2 months of relative peace, that 2021 has started with this. Folks, I want you to clip me saying this because I'm certain this is going to be true in 2022, that by time 2021 is over, we are going to be longing for the days of the lockdown and the pandemic. Clip this so I can literally eat my own words in a year.
No, preach. The other thing about that too is that, this is also, in terms of right now, the situation, what we deserve for not essentially doing a update patch on election time, meaning this is what we get where instead of having a new president in a week, we stupidly wait 3 months for a horse and buggy that doesn't exist.
So let's be honest. They've already patched it. It used to be in November. In March.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing on top of the horse and buggy thing is that, oh shit, my brain. You know what really irks me more than anything is that the DEF CON that me and Jack went, which was 26, they had the entire panel on a hacking machine voting with Bree Scilab.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how much it grates me seeing the MAGA crew now talking about all this shit there.
No, that happened in November. DEF CON was taken completely by surprise by that. And we had to go out and be like, hi, well, all this stuff are actual flaws. Like, this is from a sore loser. Like, that doesn't discredit all the stuff that these people
I don't think the InfoSec community was quite ready for that because I think it's unprecedented that we're only being paid attention to hold up the narrative that the U.S. election was stolen.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
So yeah. All right. So given the stream of light delay, anything else you want to cover? Or do you think we want to pull the plug?
I'm good. I'm gonna hang up. Let you. Oh, so you mean when I hang up, I should start doing the raid?
Yeah. What you should do is when you hang up, start the raid and then send me a message. I will wait 30 seconds for the lag to catch up, and then I will pull the plug
on Discord. All right. So I'm gonna. So if you want me to do it when I start there, that means I have to navigate to Twitch. So let me do that right now. Oh please! I've just been steeped in Super Nintendo.
Yeah. So speaking of weird things happening, the YouTube algorithm has actually decided to favor my channel as of late because I have this video about the IBM PC graphical file system and recovering something from Cell's boxes of magic.
In fact, if you work in a stream today, that's why I would have replayed, usual.
You were going to do the pre-canned NCOMMANDER joke, weren't you? You've already done that joke.
No, not that. I mean, like to actually, if you were like, in a fetal position under your desk, like crying yourself to sleep, like we're all doing right now. I would have just came on, talked about kind of this going on, and then.
Well, I have my NetWare server. It makes the bad things seem slightly better.
Finally, at least NetWare's good for something. Anyhow.
No, that would be Landman.
We're setting up the raid, so I'm gonna hang up, and then I will let you know on Discord when you can transition out, and then you're good.
That's an unfortunate choice of words.
Well, we just started 2021, so you have a lot of months ahead of you.
That is an unfortunate choice of words. That's an unfortunate choice of words.
Anyhow, this is me.
Hang up and tell me when I can pull the plug.
I'll see you at stuff. I will let you know. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Is he gone yet, folks? Yeah, he's gone. Okay. So, as a note... I was checking my Twitter DMs, Discord DMs. I actually wish Side Pocket was... Oh, crap. Frack me. Side Pocket, we're going to... God damn it. God damn it. I nearly made it the whole stream about doxing myself. Crap. think there was anything actually that bad. I just have to make sure. I have to be careful not to open my inbox when I'm on stream. Yeah, there's nothing really all that bad there. God. So, the answer to that is the old net guy actually did have the money for a club, so I will in fact order one, and it will show up on HACK-ALT-NCOMMANDER and or Master of Unlocking sometime in the near future. I am going to shut the stream down because obviously I'm at the point that if I keep streaming, I will in fact entirely dox myself. I'll probably show my wallet on camera, and then I will wonder where all my money went. So, as usual, this is NCommander signing off. If you want to keep track of my adventures in real time, please follow me on social media. I've posted the links in the chat. Please follow the hit the bell, like that, subscribe, and check out the main DEF CON 201 group on Twitter. Once again, we stream every 2 weeks. So until then, this is NCommander signing off. Have a wonderful night.